Chapter 4440. Boom. The huge human-faced ghost crow exploded. Its feathers and smelly blood splattered all over the ground. The entire cave seemed to have collapsed. Rocks kept falling down, and a large number of bones fell down. It was the ancient tomb above the cave. Damn it! Lin Ling cursed and quickly left the cave. His body was stained with the blood of the ghost crows, which made him extremely depressed. Soon, he arrived at the cave from before. Then he quickly collected the divine spring. After the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, he immediately left the cave. As soon as he left, the cave continued to collapse. However, Lin Ling had already collected the divine spring. He sped up and finally rushed out of the cave. What happened? Could it be that Lin Ling encountered the human-faced ghost crows? Should we go and help him? Look, the ground behind the cave has completely caved in. I'm most afraid that we won't be able to help, and will instead become Lin Ling's burden. You have to know that we're all seriously injured now. The bright golden dragon and the others discussed animatedly, their faces filled with anxiety. Bang! At this moment, Lin Ling finally rushed out. When they saw Lin Ling covered in blood, they became even more anxious. Lin Ling, you're injured. Are you alright? Let's leave here first. We'll talk later. Did those human-faced ghost crows chase us out? Let's go. They didn't think too much and quickly left. After the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, Lin Ling finally stopped and changed into clean clothes. When they saw Lin Ling stop, the bright golden dragon and the others looked behind them in fear. They were deeply afraid that the human-faced ghost crows would chase after them. However, after a moment of silence, they finally let out a light sigh of relief. Lin Ling, did you kill those 2 human-faced ghost crows? Xiao Er immediately asked subconsciously. Hearing this, Lin Ling was still changing into clean clothes. At the same time, he smiled and shook his head. Xiao Er, are you an idiot? That's 2 human-faced ghost crows. How could they be killed? We're already very lucky to be able to escape. The radiant golden dragon immediately reprimanded. Then he comforted Lin Ling and said, Lin Ling, don't worry. The divine mountain should have a lot of divine springs. We don't need the divine spring from before. Not bad. The others echoed his sentiments. Actually, there are more than 2 human-faced ghost crows in the cave. There are 3 of them. At this time, Lin Ling finished changing and finally raised his head to look at the crowd. 3. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and secretly rejoiced for Lin Ling. After all, 1 human-faced ghost crow was enough to give them a hard time. Now there were 3 of them. Lin Ling was lucky to be able to escape. However, even though we escaped, those beasts are the most vengeful. I'm afraid they're still chasing after us. She's been making us worry all this time. Stop complaining. Find her immediately. God Luo and the others stood up and wanted to search for her. However, voices came from afar. Brat, where is that Lei Gong from last time? Tell me immediately. I won't tell you. I won't betray him unless I'm dead. Stop dreaming. Then they saw a girl riding a white tiger. She was running towards God Luo and the others. Behind the white tiger, a large number of demons were chasing after her. The one leading them was the young master of the ox demon tribe. Fuck. Everyone was speechless. She wouldn't betray Lin Ling unless she was dead. Now that she was running towards them, wouldn't Lin Ling be exposed? She was indeed a one-track-minded girl. Young master, look. That's Lin Ling. Indeed, a demon with the head of a wild boar shouted excitedly. Haha, it's really Lin Ling. It's really Lin Ling. Moreover, he seems to be breaking through. Even the heavens are helping me. The young master of the ox demon tribe looked around. When he saw Lin Ling sitting cross-legged on the ground, he immediately laughed excitedly. What a cunning scoundrel. He actually used tricks to get the secret out of me. Chapter 4441. It's you guys. Scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing all of you. Scram. The young patriarch ignored the young lady and stared at the radiant golden dragon and the others. At this moment, the radiant golden dragon and the others became even more solemn. With their heavy injuries, they could not stop the young patriarch. In fact, the young patriarch at his peak was probably stronger than the radiant golden dragon by a notch. Those who could defeat him back then, other than Lin Ling, Probably not even the primogenitor and the others. We just killed a primogenitor, and now a young patriarch has appeared. Scram! The radiant golden dragon cursed inwardly. These people were the experts closest to the sacred mountain a year ago, second only to the gods. Young patriarch, this Lei Gong is indeed breaking through. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Some demons stared at Yi Han and licked their lips crazily. Kaka, this is great. Lei Gong is at his weakest after breaking through. This is our chance. The boar-headed demon also laughed loudly. Hee, do I need to sneak attack Lei Gong like this? What a joke. Although he defeated me last time, my strength has been greatly enhanced thanks to the treasures my father obtained from the divine mountain. There are very few mid-stage low gods who can defeat me. Of course, I won't miss such a good opportunity. Kill Lei. If I kill Lei Gong, my peerless beauty will like me even more. The young patriarch laughed coldly, his voice carrying a hint of excitement. He had wanted to kill Lin Ling for a long time. His previous defeat had left him with great humiliation. Today, he wanted to wash away that humiliation with his own hands. Then he walked towards Lin Ling step by step. Young patriarch, kill him, kill him. The demons also let out excited cries. They were so excited that they were already drooling. The worst thing to do when breaking through is to break through. Hee Lei Gong, your luck is really bad. The young patriarch walked forward step by step. 2 blood-red scimitars appeared in his hands. Ripples spread out from the scimitars. It was actually another rare treasure. Behind him, black fog spread out, and a huge bull demon head appeared. A pair of cold eyes emitted a majestic baleful aura. It could be seen that his talent had increased by a lot. He had probably reached the mid-stage god level. This was the treasure his father found in the sacred mountain. This was a drop of Kuei's divine blood. Kuei in the East Sea. There was Mount Liubo, 7,000 miles into the sea. There was a beast. Kuei. And with the help of this drop of divine blood, the talent of the young chief's divine embryo greatly increased, and he stepped into the ranks of mid-level deities. Die for me. Although Lin Ling seemed to be comprehending, he could feel everything that was happening outside. After all, he was only comprehending speed, not breaking through. He was anxious because the images in his mind were disappearing quickly. Lin Ling did not want to miss this opportunity. If he backed out, his previous efforts would be wasted. Clang! An ear-piercing sound suddenly rang out. Golden light shone brightly. The young patriarch's attack was blocked by a pair of golden dragon claws. The one standing in front of Lin Ling was the bright golden dragon. Although he seemed to have blocked the young patriarch's attack, he did not gain any advantage. The dragon scales on his back were broken and fell out. Young patriarch, I know you have a grudge against Lei Gong, but it's not good to sneak attack like this. Why don't you give the dragon race some face and postpone your battle with him? Anyway, you are not afraid of Lei Gong now. It's better to defeat him openly. After blocking the young patriarch's attack, the bright golden dragon said indifferently, although I want to defeat him openly, I don't have so much time to waste here. The young patriarch raised his head and said disdainfully, also, what face does the dragon race have? You dragons are just the dragon vein of a small lake. Do you really think you represent the entire dragon race? The dragon race had endless prestige in the void of the 9 continents. But to the Ox Demon clan, they were nothing more than this. Scram! Otherwise, don't blame me for killing all of you. After that, the young family head snorted coldly as he raised the divine sabers in his hands, suppressing the radiant golden dragon to the point that its entire body trembled. Xiao Er and the others' faces turned black. This young patriarch of the Ox Demon clan was even more difficult to deal with than the saint progenitor. If we don't kill this Lei Gong, I'm afraid he will stir up trouble in the future. At this time, a large number of deities arrived. These deities had powerful auras. Ordinary people would not recognize them. But the bright golden dragon and the others were chased a year ago. Therefore, they immediately knew where they came from. Immortal Spirit Nation. The one leading them was the great master Ling Bao. They looked at Lin Ling, who was comprehending, and their eyes were filled with dense killing intent. Not good. Xiao Er and the others felt that a great disaster was coming. A young patriarch was already very difficult to deal with. Now that there was an immortal spirit nation, how could they protect Lin Ling? Xiao Er and the others looked at the bright golden dragon. In the end, they did not leave. Instead, they continued to block in front of Lin Ling. They were already indebted to Lin Ling for taking care of them several times. In addition, Lin Ling also treated them as friends. Therefore, they were too embarrassed to run away. If they were to die, they would die together. In any case, if not for Lin Ling's help, they would have died long ago. Now that they were still alive, they had profited. You bunch of trash, are you really going to stop me? Seeing the bright golden dragon and the others blocking his path, the young patriarch's face turned even colder. Forget it, if you want to die, then all of you can die. He suddenly slashed out with his dual sabers. The huge ox demon behind him suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a terrifying hurricane. The moment the ox demon appeared, the bright golden dragon and the others trembled. They actually felt the majesty of an ancient great god. Even if they were proud dragons, they felt that they were insignificant at this moment. At this moment, they knew that they were dead for sure. Even if they were not injured, they might not be able to stop the young patriarch. At this moment, Lin Ling's heart froze. He planned to give up everything and withdraw from his state of comprehension. However, at this moment, a huge bone fist came from behind. Rumble. After the two blades collided, an earth-shattering rumbling sound was immediately heard. Everyone looked over and saw a pure white skeleton appear. It was using its terrifying fists to collide with the young patriarch's two blades. However, the skeleton was clearly not a match for it. It was obvious that it could not block it. However, at this moment, another powerful attack came. A demon king that was formed from the fusion of 10,000 demons appeared and swept out with its claws. Chapter 44-42. If you want to kill Lin Ling, you'll have to ask us first. Neat voices floated out at the same time. With the help of several people and the light golden dragon, they finally managed to block the horn-like blades. Even the hurricane spat out by the giant bull demon was barely blocked. Of course, it was just barely. However, at this moment, another expert arrived. A black chain, mixed with the power of the steps of God, swept over violently. And within the chains, there was a huge golden skeleton king roaring. Swoosh! As soon as the chains appeared, the twin sabers finally began to tremble a little. Bang! Boom! Unfortunately, this was not the end. A giant stone tablet came crashing down from the sky, sweeping everything in its path. Crack! Finally, one of the blood-red sabers that looked like a bull's horn was finally broken. Although this saber was only broken by the combined efforts of everyone, it was still enough to shock everyone. This was because this was the young clan leader. A year ago, under the sacred mountain, there was only one existence like the gods. It's them. The demons behind the young clan leader stared at the people who suddenly arrived and exclaimed, "Bang! Bang! Bang!" A group of people appeared in front of Lin Ling. They were Yu Little South Sister Tsuehua, Emperor God Zhang Gang, and the giant ghost. Among them, everyone knew how strong Emperor God Zhang Gang and giant ghost were back then, because these two experts were the closest to the sacred mountain. Whoever dares to touch our Lei Gong will be killed without mercy, Emperor God Zhang Gang said coldly. He looked around, and the faces of the experts from the immortal spirit hegemony nation changed immediately. They knew that these were the people from the Lei Gong Palace. However, when Great Master Numinous Treasure saw the young clan leader, his previous fear disappeared instantly. The young clan leader was determined to kill Lin Ling. With him around, there was no need to fear those two. It's time for the immortal spirit hegemony nation to make a move. After that, Great Master Numinous Treasure led the few remaining divine marshals and walked out step by step. Of the 7 great divine generals of the immortal spirit hegemony nation, only 4 were left. They were all mid-stage lower deities and were very powerful. However, they weren't Lin Ling's match. However, they felt that it wouldn't be difficult for them to face Emperor God Zhang Gang. Is your great Hall Lei Gong really going to act willfully? Just nice, I'll satisfy you and wipe you all out. The great Taoist master of Numinous Treasure said as he walked. There was a sneer on his face, and he could see that the young clan leader did not intend to make the first move. That was because he felt that the game was getting more and more fun. Therefore, he took a step back and let the cave master behind him attack. In that case, you great master bow, and the other cave masters should attack together. That should be enough to wipe out this group of people. What's going on? There was a rumbling sound here before, and I thought that some treasure had been unearthed. What kind of treasure is there? Other than the tombs nearby, there's nothing else. There are experts fighting, and one of them is actually Lei Gong. Lei Gong? Didn't he leave the ear-holding ox cave? Why is he here? Many people heard the news and came from afar. After landing on the ground, they looked at the scene in front of them in shock. That looks like the bright golden dragon from the Dragon Clan. His strength is monstrous, but he seems to be injured now. The rest of the people are from Lei Gong's Great Hall. That's indeed Lei Gong. Moreover, he seems to be injured too. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sitting cross-legged and unable to get up. No wonder these experts dared to attack. This is an excellent opportunity. The people who appeared in the distance came from all over the world. There were people from the void of the 9 continents, spirit nations, and many unknown experts. However, there was no doubt that they all had the strength of deities. Seeing that so many deities had appeared, the great Taoist master of numinous treasure sneered. In the void of the 9 continents, people only remembered the Dragon Valley. They didn't know about the immortal spirit hegemony nation. Today, they could use the opportunity to kill Lin Ling, to make the immortal spirit hegemony nation famous, in the void of the 9 continents. Great Hall Lei Gong, do you still remember our million torrents? Now that they're all dead, the immortal spirit hegemony nation will have to settle this grudge. Thinking of this, the great Taoist master of numinous treasure gritted his teeth and said. His eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. Back then, he had carried the order of the king of the immortal spirit hegemony nation to search for treasures in the Zhir Ox cave. He had also brought along 1,000,000 steel torrents. Originally, he wanted to make a name for himself. However, who knew that before he could even enter the sacred mountain, his 1,000,000-strong army would be annihilated. This was the greatest loss for the immortal spirit hegemony nation and the great Taoist master of numinous treasure. Humiliation. With just you guys? Since you're all dead, why don't a few more die? At this moment, Emperor God Zhonggang smiled faintly. With just you injured soldiers? You must be joking. The great Taoist master of numinous treasure obviously didn't care about Emperor God Zhonggang. In his opinion, with the young clan leader around, even if Lin Ling woke up, he would definitely be defeated this time. Giant Ghost, protect Lin Ling, you be careful. At this moment, Emperor God Zhonggang carried a huge stone tablet on his back and held a chain in his hand. He walked out step by step. Beside him was the Golden Skeleton King. All right, Yu and the rest nodded and came to Lin Ling's side. Then they looked at Lin Ling excitedly. Half a year ago, they saw that Lin Ling hadn't returned. Hence, they didn't want to miss out on the treasures of the sacred mountain. In the end, they entered the sacred mountain. In the following days, they gained a lot. However, they didn't expect to meet Lin Ling. Brother Ling, are you all right? Yu looked at Lin Ling, who had his eyes slightly closed, and asked worriedly. He should be fine. He probably had an epiphany. Hence, he didn't want to miss out on this opportunity, and comprehended it on the spot. Beside them, Giant Ghost looked at Lin Ling with a ferocious face and suddenly laughed. Hearing this, Yu and the rest finally relaxed. At this moment, Emperor God Zhonggang walked out step by step. He looked at the great master numinous treasure indifferently and said, Originally, you didn't have to be wiped out. Previously, Lin Ling also promised to write off the grudge with the immortal spirit nation. Who knew that you would still dare to come and seek death? This is a mistake. Go to hell. Great Master Numinous Treasure didn't bother to say more. He released his aura, and his divine embryo rolled like a god. Swoosh. However, Emperor God Zhonggang also made his move. With a wave of his right hand, the Golden Skeleton King pounced forward. A bone blade appeared in his hand. With a majestic aura, he slashed towards a cave master who looked like a wild boar. You want to kill him? Dream on. Great Master Numinous Treasure roared. Although he didn't get along with the young clan leader of the Ox Demon clan, Their common enemy was Lin Ling. Hence, how could he let Emperor God Zhonggang have his way? Kill me? You think you can? The wild boar's cave master was also very powerful. He was one of the 72 cave masters. His entire body shook, and he turned into a wild boar that looked like a hedgehog. Moreover, he was as huge as a mountain. With a single move of his leg, it was as if the heavens were falling and the earth was splitting. However, the golden skeleton king's bone blade didn't stop. He ruthlessly slashed out. 10,000 rays of divine power exploded. What? The wild boar king roared. This skeleton king was actually so strong. The people were discussing, and they were all shocked. He has some ability, but his realm is still too weak. Also, that bloodline does not exist. A bastard cow is still a bastard cow, and he is not qualified to become an ancient divine beast. However, Emperor God Zhonggang snorted in disdain, and a complicated mark appeared in between his eyebrows. The chains in the surroundings began to spin crazily, sealing the world. Inside the chains, the world became pitch black, and everything turned into black steel. Then the chains began to shrink, as if they were binding a cow. Bang bang bang. Sensing the changes in the world, the young patriarch's heart trembled, and he tried to escape. But no matter where he jumped, the world seemed to be frozen. He even felt that his speed was getting slower and slower. When he looked carefully, his sole leg was sealed by a powerful force, and it began to turn into steel. God steps. He let out a strange cry, extremely shocked. Ka ka ka. As soon as his voice rang out, countless chains bound him, and he turned into a completely black steel kuei. He was completely sealed, a late-stage lower god with the power of the god's steps. Even if the young patriarch had the divine fetus of a middle god, it was difficult for him to resist. In the end, it was still because his foundation was too weak. God Emperor Zhonggang had been cultivating since the age of gods. If it wasn't for the fact that he was heavily injured during the dusk of the gods, his current strength wouldn't be much weaker than treasure god Nanwufingyu. Bang bang bang. Looking at the struggling Kuei cow, who was gradually losing strength, the people in the distance gasped. Lei Gong's hall has countless experts. From afar, there is Sheng Yi, who controls the Eastern Emperor Bell. Nearby, there is this god, a young Qilin, an old man, and Lei Gong. TSK, amazing. Damn it, this Lei Gong's hall is rapidly rising. It was impossible for him to lower his voice. However, Emperor God Zhonggang quietly turned his head to look at Lin Ling. He realized that Lin Ling's expression was peaceful, as though he had reached the final moment. Therefore he smiled and nodded. That's right. I am indeed afraid of you. Seniors, please be magnanimous and let us go. For the sake of Lin Ling, he was willing to lower his noble head. Because these 5 people could suppress the Titanic Crescent God, it meant that their combined strength was stronger than Emperor God Zhonggang. What did you say? We can't hear you. Louder. The 5 old men laughed at the same time. Bastards. Emperor God Zhonggang cursed. Yu and the others did the same. These 5 despicable old men. I, Emperor God Zhonggang, am afraid of the 5 seniors. Please be magnanimous and spare our lives. We will remember this favor and repay it in the future. Emperor God Zhonggang said with a polite smile, and cupped his hands. Ha ha ha. Seeing this, the 5 old men laughed even louder, as though they were very pleased. You were captured by the great god of the Spirit Nation back then. According to the Spirit Nation, you are also a god left behind from the era of gods. Now that you are begging us for mercy, it is truly satisfying. The 5 of them said at the same time. However, you are really a piece of trash. Back then, a god actually listened to a brat. You are a disgrace to the era of gods. Why don't you call yourself a piece of trash, and let us hear it? I am a piece of trash. Emperor God Zhonggang felt as though his heart was being cut by a knife. His pride had been trampled, and he had lost all face. However, he still smiled and said, Ha ha ha. Seeing this, the experts from the Spirit Nation laughed as well. They looked at Emperor God Zhonggang as though he was a rat. On the other side, the experts from the 9 prefectures all had ashen faces. They looked as though they had been humiliated. 5 seniors, please be magnanimous. Why don't we do it now? Emperor God Zhonggang said again. I'm sorry, but we have no intention of letting Lei Gong go. Therefore, all of you still have to die. After the 5 people laughed, they suddenly said coldly, "Ha ha ha. I heard that it's easy to kill a person, but it's extremely difficult to make that person smile humbly. Now that we've killed our people, we've satisfied that feeling of satisfaction. It's great." You. Hearing this, Emperor God Zhonggang's eyes narrowed. Although he guessed that the 5 of them might not let them go, he still had some hope. After all, Supreme God Wu Mei was also a figure from the era of the gods. They still cared about their reputation. It was impossible that they would not do what they said. However, they were indeed shameless. Trash has already said it, and we have seen your humble face. Now die. Long swords appeared in the hands of the 5 of them. With a slight movement, plum blossoms filled the sky. Cold Mountain Louis. The moment the sword appeared, 50,000 divine powers were instantly released. Each of them had 10,000 divine powers. The scary thing was that these divine powers could be fused together. Behind them, an ancient plum tree appeared. It did not fall in the wind and snow. This was the talent of their divine bodies. 50,000 divine powers? The current Emperor God Zhonggang only had 40,000 divine powers. Whoosh. However, the other party did not allow Emperor God Zhonggang to hesitate, and had already attacked. Therefore, Emperor God Zhonggang also released his full strength, and asked King Golden Skeleton to help. Cold Mountain Louis. 5 voices suddenly sounded. Emperor God Zhonggang sensed that the world in front of him had disappeared. He appeared beside a lake in a world of ice and snow. Plum blossoms bloomed on both sides of the lake, and green leaves were everywhere. However, in the distant mountains, snow was falling continuously. Almost at the same time, countless swords appeared around Emperor God Zhonggang, wanting to kill him. Steel will. Emperor God Zhonggang roared. The chains were like snakes stirring up a world. The god's steps also erupted. The world within the chains turned into steel, snow, and plum blossoms turned pitch black. Hee hee. A cold laugh came. Supreme God Wu Mei was able to fight against Titanic Crescent God. How could her strength be so simple? 5 layers of plum blossoms. 5 swords came from the void. The swords flashed and 5 rays of white light appeared in Emperor God Zhonggang's world of steel. Not good. Emperor God Zhonggang's expression changed. He had turned into endless black steel, but these swords could still hurt his steel. One had to know that he was using the god steps, and so were his opponents. Chapter 44-45. Kacha. The world that Emperor God Zhonggang was in shattered and returned to normal. Thank you. Emperor God Zhonggang immediately said to the person beside him. Unknowingly, the giant ghost had appeared beside him. It's fine. These 5 old men are bullying us with numbers. Let's join forces. The giant ghost carried the record of the 8 gods and said, another impressive existence. However, even if all of you join forces, you're still no match for us. On the opposite side, the 5 old men smiled faintly. The swords in their hands quietly changed. They were no longer cold but scorching hot. Moreover, the swords began to twist. They no longer looked like swords but 5 plum blossom roots. Lightning across the sky, thunder ridges. whirling storm, fire net, raging tsunami. The power of thunder and lightning bloomed as the 5 swords pierced over. Every sword strike was different, but they could perfectly fuse together. Lightning, thunder, wind, fire, sea. In fact, they were transformed from the roots of a wild plum tree in the prehistoric times. At that time, the universe had just opened, and there was tyrannical power everywhere. The 5 roots had absorbed different kinds of power, and finally awakened in the age of the gods. Block it! Emperor God John Gang roared and swept out the chain world. The giant ghost waved the record of the 8 gods, and the stone tablet tyrannically. We'll help you too. At this moment, the light golden dragon and the rest also joined in. Although it wasn't much help, it was better than nothing. We'll help too. Yu and Inuer joined in as well. Rumble. The 2 forces were like the collapse of heaven and earth, stirring up the graveyard. Countless gods' bones soared into the sky and tumbled in the sky. Emperor God John Lord Gang,
Supreme
and
God,
the others
will help
all
you
spat
too.
out a mouthful
At this
of blood.
moment,
The
their
people
faces
from
were
Spirit
pale as
Nation
the pressure
also
on
shouted,
them increased greatly.
Scram! The
However,
5 of them
the
truly
5
had
of
the
them
strength
said
of
in
gods.
unison,
Gods
"Too
had their
strong."
pride.
How
And
could
the
they
others
ask
were
for the
also
help of
sweating
some mortal
profusely.
ants?
They
It
knew that
seems
they
like
were
Lord
fighting
Supreme
against the
God
gods
doesn't
of
care
the age
about
of
them at all.
Pantheon. In
Hearing
the
that,
past, many
they
people
could
from
only look
Spirit
up to
Nation
such a
laughed
legendary
excitedly.
figure.
Some
But
of them
now they were
stared at
fighting
Lin
against
Ling
them
with
head-on.
evil intentions.
Although the fight didn't
now that
last
Lin
long,
Ling had no one
they
to
could be
protect
killed
him,
in the next
it was
moment.
a great
But
opportunity.
it was enough to prove
Go.
their pride.
As if sensing their
Hee hee,
thoughts,
Lei Gong
the
has been
5
killed
old
by
men
me.
spoke at the same
While the
time.
5 May Supreme
Lei
Gods
Gong
were
will be
suppressing
killed
them
by
with
you.
all their might.
As for these ants,
someone
the
quietly
5 of us
approached
will
Lin
take
Ling.
care of them.
A long spear
this all
appeared
you've
in this
got?
person's hand.
After that,
the tip of
the
the
5
spear
elders
was
looked
emitting
at
green
Emperor
light.
God John Gang,
It seemed to be
and
poisonous.
the others in disdain.
This was the
Their
poison
words
dragon
were filled
spear.
with disdain.
It was obtained
I'll
from
let
the
you see
sacred
something
mountain.
even more powerful.
Although its attack power
Next,
was ordinary,
their swords began
its
to
poison
emit
light
light
that
that
illuminated the
underestimated.
surroundings.
Legend had it
5
that
suns
it had
opened
killed
high,
9,999
roars.
dragons with
Their
its
power
poison.
of divinity reached
Although
over
my spear is
60,000.
powerful,
It
behind
won't
them,
be able to
5
hurt
rays
an
of light
expert
shot
of
into
Lei
the
Gong's
sky.
level.
The ancient
However,
plum tree was
it's a
lush and
different
verdant,
story when
like
he's
an
just
ancient
waiting
god.
to be captured.
Hold on.
As
long as I kill him, hee, I'll become a celebrity in the 9 prefectures void. The Spirit Nation will reward me greatly. Holding the poison dragon spear, this person trembled with excitement. Not good. Emperor God John Gang and the others also noticed this scene. Their expressions changed drastically, but they couldn't free themselves. Xiao. The ordinary-looking poison dragon spear was getting closer and closer to Lin Ling. It was so close that it was less than a centimeter away from Lin Ling's eyebrows. But at this moment, Lin Ling finally opened his eyes. At this moment, it was as though the heavens and earth were frozen. Time stopped and even the wind stopped. Lin Ling's eyes looked calmly at the person in front of him. Although his eyes looked calm, there was an unparalleled murderous aura. It was as though he had the eyes of a god. With just a glance, the person who attacked with the spear trembled. Even his arms were trembling. He didn't know why, but he didn't dare to attack again. This feeling seemed to come from the depths of his heart. It was innate. You. He let out a trembling voice. Die. Lin Ling roared in his heart. His eyes emitted a terrifying soul power. It was as though he was furious. Boom. The person's body exploded. He couldn't be more dead. The poison dragon spear was stuck in the ground. It was still a centimeter away from killing Lin Ling. It was unknown if that person knew that the poison dragon spear wouldn't be able to kill Lin Ling, or if he was shocked by Lin Ling. His fatal attack ended in failure. Then, Lin Ling stood up coldly. The fury in his eyes was like a volcano. Previously, he almost comprehended the speed of 200,000 worlds. However, he was interrupted by this person. No, it should be said that he was interrupted by Supreme God Wu Mei. As a result, he only increased his speed by 100,000 worlds. One had to know that speed was the hardest to increase. Other than innate talent, the rest depended on treasures and divine abilities. Even so, the speed of increase wasn't very fast. Increasing his speed by 100,000 worlds was already an incomparably terrifying speed. However, compared to 200,000 worlds, it was still half of it. Moreover, Lin Ling knew that such a rare opportunity wouldn't come again if he missed it. This was because the scene of 9 crows chasing the sun had disappeared. No matter how hard Lin Ling tried to recall it, it was useless. Lin Ling has woken up. At this moment, the people in the distance exclaimed in surprise. What a pity. He was so close. I can only say that Lin Ling is lucky. However, it doesn't matter. He can't escape from Supreme God Wu Mei. That's right. Today let us witness the fall of one of the four great gods, Lei Gong. Lin Ling is the most wanted criminal in the Spirit Nation. Today he is finally dead. The experts of the Spirit Nation were extremely excited. Lin Ling, Emperor God Zhang Gang, and the others were delighted. However, Lin Ling ignored them as he was boiling with anger. Instead, he looked coldly at Supreme God Wu Mei. He Lei Gong. The five old men were also looking at Lin Ling, the corners of their mouths curling up. The next one to die is you. Although Lin Ling was one of the four great gods, it was obvious that he was still a distance away from Eugene and the others. Supreme God Wu Mei was already a god. Chapter 44-46. Primordial Yang in seclusion shift Yang to Yin. They roared angrily and used the god's stairway again. This time, the pressure on Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest increased greatly. However, Lin Ling, who had been silent all this while, finally made his move. He saw that the five of them were mid-stage lower gods. But because of their talents, they could combine Yin and Yang, increasing their combat power by more than 5 times. No wonder Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest could not win. However, Lin Ling could see that their combination of Yin and Yang was because of the ancient desolate plum behind them. Without wasting any time, Lin Ling activated the Stairs of Wisdom and sealed the desolate plum. Something strange happened. People could see that the 5 plum supreme gods' auras were rapidly weakening. Their combined strength was disintegrated at this moment. My sword! The 5 people's faces also changed in an instant. They were shocked and stunned. In the end, they were even more stunned. Their divine energy is weakening rapidly. Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest were overjoyed. The strength that was suppressed previously was unleashed. Zhang Gang broke my comprehension. Looking at Lin Ling, they were enraged. Third stage talent fusion, blood sword in hand. He slashed out. Humph, brat, I don't know what method you used, but you dare to fight us? The 5 old men sneered and raised their swords to resist. Kacha! In the next moment, a crisp sound could be heard. One of the old men's swords broke. You are not an early stage lower god. The old man was tongue-tied and his nose was running. This was because Lin Ling's sword contained more divine power than his. Break me! Lin Ling roared furiously. He raised his sword with one hand and swung it like a club. Kacha! Another sword was broken. Without the desolate plum as a foundation, the 5 of them could not combine their strength. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Kacha! Another sword was broken by Lin Ling. What plum tree roots? I will break your roots today. Kacha! Another sword broke. 5 swords broke. The previously insufferably arrogant supreme god, Wu Mei, was now like a dog being abused by Lin Ling. This caused Emperor God Zhang Gang and the others to be extremely shocked. It was only then that they realized that Lin Ling was actually twice as strong as before. You're calling yourself trash. Lin Ling's sword continued to slash at the 5 gods, causing their hair to be disheveled and their clothes to be torn apart. Are you going to tell me or not? Lin Ling slashed out with his sword again, and the 5 of them retreated at the same time. Moreover, after they had calmed down, their hearts were in turmoil. Only now did they remember that after Lin Ling came out of seclusion, the method they relied on to survive suddenly and strangely disappeared. Of course, if it was someone else, this wouldn't be a big deal. However, their opponent was Lin Ling. Without the innate divine fetus, how could they be a match for him? We are trash. The situation was out of their control. The 5 of them had no time to be surprised as they lowered their heads and spoke. Too soft, louder. Lin Ling raised his sword and threatened them domineeringly. Supreme God Wu Mei looked into the distance. When they saw the experts from the Spirit Nation and the experts from the 9 prefectures void, their old faces instantly turned red. Damn it! Lin Ling was deliberately humiliating them. If you don't speak, die. Seeing that they were hesitating, Lin Ling's killing intent surged. We are trash, lu la 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 la. The 5 old men were so frightened that they shouted at the same time, and even started to sing. However, it had to be said that the song they sang was quite good. It was very melodious. Ha ha ha. Emperor God Zhonggang suddenly laughed heartily. Yu Yu and the others laughed until tears flowed down their cheeks. This was because the 5 old men's beards and clothes were in a sorry state. When they sang such a song, it was very amusing. Die! After they finished singing, Lin Ling slashed out with his sword. The sea of blood surged and instantly drowned one of the old men. Lei Gongyu. That old man disappeared into the sea of blood. However, he still shouted angrily. He thought that after calling himself trash, Lei Gong would let them go. Remember, this is called an eye for an eye. Lin Ling raised his sword and killed another god. With another sword strike, another old man fell. When he was about to die, he even cried out. Lin Ling still held his sword. However, he stretched out his left hand and used Heaven's splitting slash. I'll let you die a quick death. This move was terrifying. How could the supreme god Wu Mei block it? It was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Rumble. With another slash, another old man was cut in half. Lin Ling, don't kill all of them. Leave one for me. I want to cut him alive. At this moment, Emperor God Zhonggang roared and flew over with the giant ghost. If the supreme gods of the 5 may join forces, they could even suppress a god. However, after being defeated one by one, their strength was only at the middle stage of the lower god realm. Emperor God Zhonggang alone would be able to kill him cleanly. Even a god is dead. Lin Ling can kill a god. The people in the distance trembled at this scene. Some even fell to the ground, their legs weak. It was very difficult for a god to fall. Take the battle at Sacred Mountain as an example. Other than one god who was killed by the Eastern Emperor Bel, the rest of the gods survived. However, Lin Ling was the first to kill a god. Terrifying. Run. In a short moment, the people of Spirit Kingdom fled in all directions. Dream on. Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He killed all of them, and erupted with 600,000 world speed. This was the speed of the 3rd stage talent fusion. It was incomparably terrifying. Shua. With one slash, one person fell. Fortunately, it's not in my direction. On the other side, several gods of Spirit Kingdom were also fleeing. However, when they saw Lin Ling chasing in another direction, they finally let out a sigh of relief. You can't escape either. However, at this moment, a figure mysteriously appeared in front of them. It was Lin Ling. What welcomed them was a blood sword that killed decisively. How did you catch up so quickly? These people were shocked before they died. They could not believe it. This was because Lin Ling was chasing in the east. Their speed was not slow either. Therefore, it would take a lot of time to catch up with them. However, in the blink of an eye, Lin Ling had arrived. This was too strange. Go to the underworld and ask Emperor Ming. One slash told them the answer. Following that, the whole world exploded with bloody light. Rumbling sounds continued as fresh blood splattered everywhere. Lin Ling single-handedly killed all the gods who were fleeing in all directions. People could only see fireworks blooming in the sky. They were fireworks made of blood. Following that, the experts of Spirit Kingdom were all killed. So strong. This is a true god. Lei Gong is going to kill his way to the era of gods. The experts of the 9 prefectures void were solemn. Because the Great Hall of Lei Gong had Saint Yi, they knew that the Great Hall of Lei Gong was not to be underestimated. However, Lin Ling was also telling them that as the head of the Great Hall of Lei Gong, he was not weak. Lin Ling. Seeing that all the enemies were killed, Emperor God Zhonggang and the others were delighted. They then rushed towards Lin Ling. Lin Ling also returned in the sky. He was still in a bad mood. He had missed the 200,000 world speed. However, after seeing Yu Yu and the others, Lin Ling finally smiled. West Memorial Hall was the tomb of the gods with the most treasures and the most danger out of the 4 memorial halls. Most importantly, a world will host was recorded here. Gods from all over the world had probably come for this. Now, there are many more deities in the void of the 9 prefectures and the broken world of the gods. Maybe it has something to do with the chaotic world. Lin Ling, what's the chaotic world? I'm not too sure, but I have a feeling that the gods who are still alive from the primordial age and the age of the gods are all in the chaos realm. Perhaps the strongest world, is also in the chaos realm. Of course, this is just my guess. Lin Ling. In fact, I also have a feeling that there are many more deities in the void of the 9 prefectures. They might be sealed there, and can't easily enter the void of the 9 prefectures. No matter what, let's go to West Memorial Hall first. Everyone follow me. After some discussion, Lin Ling led the way, and the others followed him into the depths of the void of the 9 prefectures. Lin Ling's purpose for this trip was to obtain the head of the Sword Devil. This had always been his wish. As for the head of the Sword Devil, it was recorded on the map of the Sacred Returning Sect. It was buried in a place called the Hall of Hidden Spirits. As they walked forward, the ground was filled with lonely graves, and there were even more of them than before. At a glance, there was an endless number of graves. When one walked among them, a strange feeling arose in one's heart. It was as if they had reached the end of the world. These graves should be the corpses left behind from the ancient era's Great War of the Gods. However, I'm curious as to who buried them, Emperor God Zhang Gang said as he looked into the distance. This was also the question that everyone was most curious about. Could it be that there was someone in the sacred mountain? This way. Lin Ling did not say much. Not long after, a rumbling sound came from the front, causing Lin Ling to frown. After instructing everyone, he immediately increased his speed. After passing through a large graveyard, an open space finally appeared in front of them. On the open space, a terrifying battle was erupting, causing the nearby ancient tombs to explode. Corpses and bones were scattered all over the ground, and then turned into powder. Rumble. On the other hand, the deafening rumbling grew louder and louder in the ears of Lin Ling and the others, and a strand of ferocious divine energy surged out from all directions. However, even though the divine energy was being released, it clearly didn't affect the surroundings much, otherwise, Lin Ling and the others wouldn't have been able to approach it. Titanic Crescent God Kirshin? Lin Ling swept his gaze around, and saw that the 2 deities were both on the empty ground in the distance. Other than that, there was also the Black Dragon who fought Lin Ling's group in the Sacred Mountain, the Ox Demon Patriarch, and an old man with a fly whisk in his hand. The 5 of them were incomparably powerful, and were true gods. As for the other gods around them, although their strength was not weak, there was still a gap between them and the 5 of them. They stood quietly on the ground, as if they were resisting something. Looking into the distance, there was a purple coffin lying on the ground. The coffin was ancient, and probably had been there for many years. However, it still emitted a soul-stirring divine pressure. The lid of the coffin had been partially removed, revealing a small hole the size of an arm. However, because of this small hole, an incomparably terrifying suction force was born that wanted to suck Kirishin and the others into the coffin. Isn't that coffin a little too terrifying? Seeing this, God Emperor Zhanggang cried out in alarm. It was only a small opening, but it was already hard for the 5 gods to resist. If the coffin lid was completely opened, the 5 gods would most likely meet with a mishap. Grandpa Kirishin, Little South and the others wanted to rush over to help Lin Ling, but Lin Ling stopped them. It's useless even if you go over. You won't be able to help at all. It's better for you to stay where you are. The Kirishin and the others also saw Lin Ling's group in the distance. The Kirishin kept shaking his head at Lin Ling's group, indicating that Lin Ling's group should not come over. They must have taken a liking to that coffin and wanted to take it for themselves. But as soon as they opened the lid, danger came. Chapter 44-48. You guys stay here. God Emperor Zhanggang Giant Ghost, come and help me. Lin Ling said to God Emperor Zhanggang as he pointed into the distance. Close the coffin. God Emperor Zhanggang suddenly understood, but he was still a little unhappy. Although it seems possible, it's too risky. In my opinion, we should just ignore him and leave. Lord God Emperor Zhanggang, our Grandpa Kirishin is over there. Please help us. Little South and the others also begged. They knew that if they wanted to save their Grandpa Kirishin, only Lin Ling and the other 2 strongest experts could do it. I know the Kirishin is there, but there are still a few enemies there. God Emperor Zhanggang was still unhappy. He wasn't familiar with the Kirishin, and if he saved the Kirishin, he would have to save the Ox Devil Patriarch and the other gods as well. This made him feel like he was at a disadvantage. Let's go. Lin Ling also had the same thought, but he was indebted to the Kirishin, so Lin Ling couldn't just stand by and watch. The three of them went around in a different direction, only to find that there was no suction force at all. Soon, they appeared behind the purple coffin. Obviously, Black Deity and the others had also noticed their appearance. All of them were shocked and tongue-tied. Lin Ling looked at them and said, "Next, I will try to close the coffin and save you. However, the three of us took a risk to come here, so you will have to pay a reward. If you agree, then nod." Hearing Lin Ling's words, the Kirishin and giant crescent god immediately nodded. However, the ox devil patriarch and the other two gods frowned. They were unhappy. Although Lin Ling was one of the four gods, in their hearts, Lin Ling still lacked the strength to become a god. He still had to rely on Lei Gong and his subordinates. Therefore, it was impossible for them to listen to Lin Ling and give him a treasure. In fact, the ox devil patriarch couldn't wait to kill Lin Ling. "Feel free to refuse." Lin Ling sneered, then tried to close the coffin with God Emperor Zhonggang and the others. However, the coffin was extremely heavy, and the three of them could barely move it. This shocked Lin Ling and the others, and they were curious as to what kind of god was hidden in the purple coffin. Of course, the coffin's lid moved slightly reduced the pressure on the Kirishin and the others. Although they still couldn't escape, they were at least temporarily out of danger. The ox devil patriarch and the others were envious. Their gazes were all fixed of their eyes on the other side. "Have you considered it?" Lin Ling said indifferently. "If you miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. You have guts. Deal." Finally someone spoke. It was the old man with the fly whisk in his hand. "Damn it, forget it, deal," Black Dragon said through gritted teeth. Back in the Divine Mountain, he had single-handedly fought Lin Ling and the others. But now his life was in Lin Ling's hands. This earth-shattering change made him very unhappy. Of course, although he was unhappy, his life was still more important. The last one was the patriarch of the Ox Demon clan. Last time Lin Ling had injured his son. Now not only was he unable to take revenge, he had to lower his voice. This was a great humiliation to him. However, his life was still more important than this humiliation. "I agree." Finally, the Ox Devil Patriarch nodded. God Emperor Zhonggang, giant ghost full force. After the three of them agreed, Lin Ling smiled and closed the coffin lid with all his strength. Rumble. The coffin lid moved slowly. It didn't look big, but it was as heavy as the void. Moreover, as the hole became smaller, the coffin lid also became heavier. "You guys should help too. What are you standing there for? Use your methods to resist the suction. It's best if you attract more of it. Otherwise, it'll be hard to close the coffin lid." Lin Ling had already used all his strength, but in the end, he still couldn't close the gap. Therefore, he scolded everyone. "You must have damaged your brain from cultivating. You need me to remind you of such a simple thing." When this voice floated out, the Ox Devil Patriarch and the other gods were furious. That despicable Lei Gong actually dared to scold them. "I'll endure." However, they were about to escape, so they all endured and erupted with all their strength to resist the suction. With their help, the pressure on Lin Ling's side lessened a lot. With the three of them working together, they finally closed the purple coffin completely. However, just as they closed it, they felt a terrifying divine pressure enveloping them, which scared them out of their wits. Fortunately, this divine pressure disappeared quickly, and the purple coffin became quiet again. "It's gone." When they looked at the Kirishin and the others, they all let out sighs of relief. "Black Dragon, it was you." Afterward, the Kirishin and the Titanic Crescent god looked at an old man. Earlier, they saw the purple coffin and wanted to take it for themselves. However, Black Dragon acted first and rashly opened the purple coffin, which led to this unforeseen event. "Haha, even if I didn't do it, you guys would have done it anyway. So stop pretending." Black Dragon coldly snorted. Naturally, he wouldn't admit it. However, his words made sense. Earlier, Black Dragon acted quickly, but that didn't mean that the other gods wouldn't have opened the purple coffin. As gods, they were omnipotent in the 9 continents. Therefore, they subconsciously believed that they could do anything under the sacred mountain. They completely forgot that there were many existences in this place that were beyond their control. Stop arguing. The purple coffin is right here. Whoever wants it can have it. At this time, Lin Ling coldly laughed. His words silenced everyone. After experiencing the danger from before, they couldn't wait to avoid the purple coffin. How would they dare to interfere? Seeing that no one was speaking, Lin Ling continued. According to our agreement, I helped you guys escape, so you have to give me a treasure. Of course, I don't ask for anything good. Just give me something. However, I think that as gods, you guys wouldn't be willing to give me something so casually. I'll give you some trash. Unless you think that your lives are only worth that little bit of money. This guy is really greedy. Black Dragon and the Ox Demon Patriarch's faces darkened. They didn't want to give it up, but they felt that they couldn't put down their faces. After all, there were others watching. They wanted to kill Lin Ling, but Lin Ling had the Kyushin and the Titanic Crescent God on his side. Furthermore, Emperor God Zhang Gang wasn't weak either. Even if they worked together, they might not be able to kill him. I have 800 Divine Dao Springs here. Take it as a reward for helping me earlier. In the end, Black Dragon unhappily said. It's really cheap. Lin Ling faintly smiled. A dragon god's bloodline isn't even worth 1,000 Divine Dao Springs. Interesting. Of course, it's not that I think it's too little. I just didn't think that you would humiliate yourself like this. Chapter 44-49. As expected of the ancient dragon god bloodline, the price is high. Lin Ling smiled as he accepted it. Wind of Terror, a specialty of the west of the celestial realm. As for its use, you can figure it out yourself. Nebula Armor, a treasure left behind by the celestial realm. You can imagine how strong its defense is. It's yours. The next two gods also handed over their treasures. Although they were not top-tier treasures, they were still quite valuable, and Lin Ling accepted them with a smile. On the other hand, Black God and Titanic Crescent God were grinning from ear to ear. This was because they were pleased to see the three gods boasting about their losses. Titanic Crescent God, it's your turn. However, Lin Ling soon turned to Titanic Crescent God. What? Me too. Titanic Crescent God's eyes widened. Of course. Lin Ling nodded as if it was only natural. You. Titanic Crescent God's face twisted in anger. He thought that since Lin Ling was one of the four gods, they should be on the same side. I'll give it to you. However, Titanic Crescent God was too embarrassed to refuse, so he handed over 1,000 Divine Dao Springs. Lin Ling, I'll give it to you. The Kyushin laughed as he prepared to take out his treasures, but Lin Ling refused with a smile. We're on the same side. Bastard. Titanic Crescent God cursed when he heard that. Motherfucker. Am I not on the same side? As expected, Lin Ling was still holding a grudge against him for forcing Lei Gong to his death. He almost wanted to tell Lin Ling that half a year ago, he saw a familiar figure that looked like Lei Gong. Perhaps Lei Gong was still alive. However, he was not sure, so he did not say anything. Lin Ling, what do you plan to do next? The Kyushin asked. The eyes of the patriarch of the Ox Demon clan and the others flickered. After what had happened, they also felt that this place was very dangerous. They had to act cautiously. Therefore, they didn't leave for the time being. I don't have any plans to go anywhere yet. Kyushin, what about you? Lin Ling asked, hiding his goal. We want to go to a place called the Hidden Spirit Hall. It is said that there are many ancient treasures there. Kyushin did not hide anything and explained. Hearing this, the others fell silent. However, this also meant that they were also going for this place, including Lin Ling. However, what surprised Lin Ling was that these people actually knew about the Hidden Spirit Hall. But that was also good. If everyone moved together, they could avoid some danger. Since I have nowhere to go, I might as well go to the Hidden Spirit Hall with the Kyushin, Lin Ling said. Sure. Kyushin immediately nodded happily. Although the others didn't say anything, they obviously agreed with Lin Ling's decision to move together. This place was full of ancient tombs. Once something appeared, it was incomparably powerful. Therefore, the addition of an expert was undoubtedly one more helper. Although Lin Ling's strength was not as strong as theirs, he was mysterious and could always catch them off guard. In addition, he had many experts under him, so he would definitely be of help. Some people were busy. What happened before was a living example. Then let's move on. Then the Kirishin led Lin Ling and the others forward. The patriarch of the Ox Demon clan and the others also followed. Regarding this, the Kirishin and the others didn't say anything. Everyone had a tacit understanding. I didn't expect that there would be tombs under the sacred mountain. The 4 foundations are all ancient tombs. However, only the Western Foundation has the most treasures. It is said that in the depths, there are even stronger experts. I once saw the dragon god of the dragon clan. What? Dragon god? Everyone talked as they walked. When they mentioned the dragon god, the black dragon's expression changed obviously. As for the bright golden dragon and the others who were following behind, they already knew about this news. Their reactions were calm. The dragon god on the other side of the Kaiyuan River has moved out. The gods in the depths are indeed terrifying. I'm most afraid that the great gods of the spirit kingdom will also come. Then this place will be lively. The old man with the whisk in his hand said with a smile. Even if he comes, he might not be able to summon the wind and summon the rain. Because I have a feeling that a group of unknown experts have also appeared in the depths. For example, outside the sacred mountain, there was that ancient god called Chang Liang. And there was also someone called the Saint Ancestor, the demon sealer of the underworld. Their origins are not simple. Not good. The people behind us are also coming. The black dragon suddenly said solemnly. The other gods smiled. But their smiles were somewhat complicated, because they all felt that the waters in the depths of the Western Foundation were too deep. The ancient heaven and earth were silent and gloomy, making people feel very depressed. Only a few people's voices could be heard from time to time, which made people feel even more depressed. After a long time, an ancient manor quietly appeared in the endless graveyard. The manor was dilapidated, and the ground was scattered with paper money. A white cloth hung at the door, and a nameless wind blew, adding a sense of eeriness. The most conspicuous thing about the manor was an ancient locust tree planted beside the manor's door. This also made everyone's expression change. To prevent any accidents, everyone stopped and used their prideful methods to quietly investigate. Even Lin Ling spread out his soul force and enveloped the entire manor. However, the manor was very ordinary, and he could not detect anything strange. It was very strange. Moreover, behind the manor, it was a mess, and they could not find anything. Old man, why are there so many memorial tablets? The patriarch of the Ox Demon clan frowned, and turned around to look at the old man. But immediately discovered to his surprise that the old man who had been following them all this time had actually disappeared. It had to be said that although he seemed to be moving forward casually, he had actually been secretly keeping an eye on the old man. When the endless memorial tablets suddenly appeared, he was shocked, and in that short moment, the old man disappeared. When did you leave? The expressions of Kirishin and the others changed dramatically. Apparently, they had only just realized that the old man had disappeared. Among them, only Lin Ling's eyes were constantly flickering. Suddenly, he did not stay any longer, and rushed in the direction of the endless memorial tablets. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared from everyone's sight. What happened, Lei Gong? Don't scare me. The sudden change shocked everyone. First, the endless memorial tablets appeared, then the old man disappeared, and now Lin Ling suddenly ran away, which made them feel pressured. I told you this Lei Gong is completely unreliable. Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and chase after him. Everyone had no time to be surprised, and they hurriedly chased after Lin Ling. Although they did not know what Lin Ling was going to do, in such a strange place, they were obviously a little panicked. As soon as they rushed out, they immediately discovered that there was actually a gap in the neatly arranged memorial tablets. Looking through the gap, they saw an ancient house in front of them. The house was dark and covered in dust, as if no one had been here. Lin Ling's figure dashed past the side of the house. Chase after him. No one dared to stay any longer, and they hurriedly rushed after him. Rumble. However, just as they rushed to the front of the house, a deafening sound came from behind the house. A destructive force that surpassed the power of a god erupted, and the entire world shook. Kirishin and the others all stopped in their tracks, and their expressions changed drastically. They could sense how terrifying that power was. It was as if it didn't come from a god, but from the great Tao of the void. Lei Gong, you're dead, Black Dragon said with a frown. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. They did not know whether Lin Ling could survive under that force, and this made them stand there stupidly for a moment, not daring to act rashly. This manner is too strange. After a moment of silence, Titanic Crescent God said with a frown. He was as powerful as a god, but in this manner, he felt powerless. Let's leave this place first, the old man with the whisk said, but his words made everyone nod. If they did not investigate this strange place thoroughly, it would be easy to encounter danger. Kiki, it's too late to leave now. However, at this moment, a sharp laugh suddenly rang out, and then the world shook. Chapter 4451. So what if you know? Now you're all going to become my nourishment. A gust of wind blew around them, and the memorial tablets swept over them like an overturning sea. In an instant, the area around the Kirishin and the others was filled with memorial tablets, leaving them nowhere to run. They unleashed all their strength, trying to open a gap, but they found that all their attacks were useless. Oh no, it's a boundary array. Everyone quickly reacted. You guys aren't that stupid. However, that brat from before is the smartest among all of you. He actually escaped early. However, he went to the forbidden area. Even I don't dare to enter that place. I'm afraid he'll die there. The voice drifted out again, making everyone's scalp tingle. The kid he was talking about was naturally Lin Ling. Lin Ling actually reacted one step ahead of us. This kid is really sharp. What nonsense are you talking about? Didn't I say that Lin Ling went to the forbidden area and might be dead? We'd better take care of ourselves. Who knows how to break the array? I can't do it. Let me try. Oh no, this array is extraordinary. I can't break it. It's a combination of a killing array and a trapping array. It's powerful at trapping and killing people. And you're still calling yourself a god? You're just trash. If Lin Ling is still alive, he might be able to attack that locust tree from outside. But if Lin Ling is dead, then we won't be able to hold on for much longer. Among the countless memorial tablets, the Kirishin and the others were also rapidly discussing. Of course, they weren't very confident that Lin Ling was still alive. However, no one saw that at this moment, in a tomb passage behind the manor, a figure was running along the tomb passage, and he was Lin Ling. Although Lin Ling hadn't seen through the locust tree's origins, he had sensed that something was wrong. Therefore, in order to avoid being kicked out, he had left early to search for the sword demon's head. As for the Kirishin and the other gods, Lin Ling could only pray that they were on their own. Because Lin Ling had a feeling that he might not be a match for eccentric locust tree in a head-on collision with him. The tomb was pitch black, as if it had no end. Finally, at a certain moment, Lin Ling felt that he had stepped into some enchantment restriction. These restrictions were very ancient. They were left behind by the gods of ancient times. This caused Lin Ling's expression to change slightly. According to the map that Saint Guy had given him, the sword demon was in the depths of the tomb, but there was no way to break the seal. Once you step into the ancient tomb, life and death are just passers-by. Lin Ling looked at the words beside the tomb. Then he gritted his teeth and stepped in. Rumble. As soon as he entered, the world behind him changed. It became pitch black, as if it was a world of chaos. Moreover, this pitch-black darkness was constantly wriggling, as if it wanted to devour everything. What a terrifying aura of death. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. He sensed that the chaotic world behind him contained an incomparably terrifying power, led by the deathly aura. It was all negative energy. Rumble. At this moment, the chaotic world began to slowly engulf him. Although it was not fast, everything that was engulfed by it was turned into nothingness. I have to leave now. Lin Ling knew that if he did not leave now, he would soon be engulfed. Therefore, he immediately took a step forward. However, something strange happened. He seemed to have taken a step forward, but when the step ended, his body was still in the same place. He had clearly taken a step forward, but the result was that he was still in the same place. This was too terrifying. It's an enchantment restriction. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. Rumble. At this moment, the chaotic world behind him was getting closer and closer. Cold sweat broke out on Lin Ling's forehead. His soul power spread out, and he immediately discovered that countless threads had appeared in front of him. They intertwined with each other, and were as complex as a heavenly book. Among the threads, there was a red one. It was like an earthworm hidden among the threads, twisting and turning. Could it be that I can only take the right step by following the direction of the red thread? Lin Ling instantly guessed, and hurriedly chased after the red thread. However, the red thread was hidden among the threads and formed numerous ancient enchantments. If he wanted to pursue it, he had to break these enchantments. Fortunately, the enchantments hidden in the first step were not complicated. Many of them were enchantments that Lin Ling had come into contact with. So Lin Ling was confident that he could break them. Break it! Lin Ling's hands constantly danced, as if he was pulling apart the threads and looking for the red thread. He broke the enchantments one by one. After a moment, the red thread finally moved forward. The direction it was pointing at was actually the leftmost brick in front of Lin Ling. When he looked behind Lin Ling, the pitch-black chaotic world was less than a meter away from Lin Ling. There it is. At this critical moment, Lin Ling took a step forward. This time, he was finally not beaten back to the same place. However, Lin Ling did not have the time to rejoice. He broke the enchantments again. Damn, who is so abnormal? In less than a meter, there are actually 1 billion enchantments. I don't know how long it will take to break them one by one. And this is me. If it was someone else, even if it was a purple mark supreme robe boundary god, I'm afraid it would take a lot of time to break them. If there was no chaotic world behind, I could slowly break them. However, now I can't slow down at all. Break it. After a long time, Lin Ling took another step forward. Chapter 4452. The body of chaos and the ghoul jellyfish's talents actually improved. Lin Ling inadvertently checked and was shocked. However, he couldn't care less and started to calculate crazily. The 5th step was successfully taken. The 6th step, a total of 5 billion barriers appeared. Speed up. Lin Ling frantically unlocked the barriers. Many of them were the first time he encountered them. But when death approached, he could only rely on his own experience to solve them. Time passed quietly. The 6th step, Lin Ling successfully took it. However, the world of chaos behind him was getting closer and closer. The 7th step, Lin Ling took it again. The world of chaos had already appeared behind Lin Ling. When Lin Ling faced the 8th step, the world of chaos completely drowned him. Chaos ghoul jellyfish. Just after being devoured, Lin Ling roared in his heart and activated his talents to crazily devour the negative energy. And his mind was still calculating the barriers. At a certain moment, he used the devouring of the 2 talents to madly rush out of the world of chaos again. In this short moment, Lin Ling discovered that his talents had improved a little. Break! And after rushing out of the world of chaos, Lin Ling also solved the 8th step. And the 8th step was like a large character. After solving it, the next step was a little more open. At least 5 consecutive steps were not difficult for Lin Ling. This also made Lin Ling discover that unknowingly, his spirit formation Tao had also quietly improved. Of course, the body of chaos and the ghoul jellyfish's talents had also reached the 8th grade. There are still gains. Lin Ling was also very surprised. He simply slowed down and continued to devour the world of chaos behind him to improve his 2 talents. At the same time, with the help of the tomb path, he strengthened his spirit formation Tao. With this progress, Lin Ling was like a fish in water. It became easier and easier. Looking ahead unknowingly, the tomb path had also reached the end. At the end was a dragon lock stone. This huge stone was said to be made of countless dragon corpses and used to seal the ancient tomb. When the dragon lock stone fell, the ancient tomb and the outside world became 2 different worlds. It's really a well-guarded tomb. Lin Ling sighed in his heart. First, there were endless spirit formations. Then there was the primal chaos world. At the end, there was the dragon sealing stone. This meant that no matter how powerful one's spirit formation skills were, if one could not break through the dragon sealing stone, then everything would be in vain. Sooner or later, one would be devoured. This meant that if one wanted to pass through this tomb, in addition to having a powerful barrier, one's own strength must also be very strong. The aegis of the Tao of Tombs won't be able to stop me, and the world of primal chaos is far behind me. That said, I have to see how strong this dragonlock stone is. Otherwise, I'll be in big trouble. Lin Ling muttered to himself. His speed of breaking the barrier increased by a notch, and he opened up a distance of 3 meters from the chaotic world behind him. Then, he used the third stage of his talent, fusion, and fiercely slashed at the dragon-locking stone. His sword landed on the dragon-locking stone with all his strength. However, the dragon-locking stone did not budge at all. Moreover, a terrifying will was reflected back, causing Lin Ling's mind to go into a daze. This was because what appeared in his mind was the Great War of the Primordial Era. At that time, the heavens and earth had just been created, and all living things had just recovered. The will of the heavens had arrived, and it had a crazy battle with the primordial gods. The will of the heavens was also the will of the world, and it was the first time it had appeared in the universe. That battle had caused the heavens to fall, and the earth to split. It was the primordial era, where there were countless gods and countless gods had fallen. Fortunately, this will of the heavens had just been born not long ago, so in a head-on clash, it had finally lost to the gods of the primordial era. Of course, the gods of the primordial era had also suffered countless casualties. Many gods had fallen, and in the end, they were buried here and in other places. As expected, the ancient tombs under the sacred mountain all came from the primordial era. Lin Ling was shocked. He turned back and saw that the chaotic world was less than 2 meters away in a short period of time. It's impossible to open the dragon-locking stone with my own strength. I can only try Penga's attack. Lin Ling knew very well that although he looked calm now, if he could not break the dragon-locking stone, he would not be able to escape the fate of dying in the chaotic world. And the only hope of opening the dragon-locking stone was Penga's attack. Break for me. Now, Lin Ling's chaotic body and wraith jellyfish's level had greatly increased, and the heaven-splitting slash that they used was also extraordinary. He looked at the dragon-locking stone and slashed it down. Rumble. But this time there was an effect. The heaven-splitting slash was indeed Penga's ultimate technique. Lin Ling's slash had actually split open a huge crack in the dragon-locking stone. Inside there were gusts of cold wind, as if it had been opened. Great. Lin Ling was overjoyed. This way he would not have to die in the tomb. Could it be that I've encountered this chaotic world? Then I can also raise my chaotic body and wraith jellyfish's talent. Lin Ling did not immediately enter. Instead he retreated, approached the chaotic world, and was drowned by it. The black tide flooded over, and Lin Ling sensed that the chaotic body and wraith jellyfish were frantically devouring, and their levels were constantly increasing. It's about time. If not for the fact that Lin Ling's strength had increased by a bit, he would have been suppressed by the divine pressure to the point that it would be difficult for him to move forward. According to Sage Gi's map, the sword demon's head is here. This means that there are gods from the primordial era, and gods from the era of the gods here. Lin Ling moved forward and searched ceaselessly. Finally, his eyes lit up because he noticed that the scabbard behind him had started to jump. And this sort of jump was unprecedentedly excited, as if it had seen something. Found it, Lin Ling instantly guessed. Following the direction of the scabbard, he finally stopped in front of a pitch-black memorial tablet. Upon closer inspection, the word Nameless was written on the memorial tablet. Below the memorial tablet was an object wrapped in a red cloth. From the looks of it, it seemed to be the head. At this moment, Lin Ling was inexplicably excited. That was because he had obtained the scabbard many years ago. Moreover, because of the killing intent of the scabbard, Lin Ling had been forced to constantly search for the broken sword. Now he had finally found the head. Immediately, Lin Ling waved his right hand and wrapped the red cloth with his divine essence, slowly lifting the head. Perhaps because the head sensed the existence of the scabbard, there was no powerful divine pressure to suppress it. Moreover, in midair, the red cloth slowly unraveled on its own, and an old man's head slowly appeared. The old man's hair was messy, and his expression was unruly. He was very domineering, and Lin Ling was stunned. However, in the next moment, the head's eyes suddenly opened, and a terrifying murderous aura surged out. Not good. Lin Ling was enveloped by the murderous aura, and suddenly found himself in a vast white space. There was nothing around him. Could it be that the sword demon is not dead yet? He has taken over my body. A terrifying thought arose in Lin Ling's mind. The scabbard was constantly searching for the broken sword, and even the head. Its purpose was not to restore the sword's power, but to revive the sword demon. Damn it. He had been deceived for so many years. Lin Ling then frantically attacked his surroundings. However, the vast white space was like a world that could not be broken. On the contrary, in the endless memorial tablets, Lin Ling, whose body had been occupied, stood there quietly. Bang! The rope that tied his long hair suddenly exploded. His long hair spurted out like a jellyfish baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Lin Ling's entire body was surging with murderous aura. Wisps of murderous aura roared, and his eyes instantly turned red. I have returned. This junior is really powerful. He can actually find everything that I have lost. Moreover, the strength of this body is actually twice as strong as mine in the past. Ha ha ha. The person looked up to the sky and laughed. He stretched out his hand, and a huge sword floated over. After landing in his hand, he ruthlessly slashed out. Rumble! The terrifying sea of blood turned into a huge demon, sweeping out in all directions. The memorial tablets in the surroundings also crashed down, and the void was in chaos. The gods and Buddhas in the sky tried to kill me in the past. Today I, the sword demon, am back. I want this world to not be able to cover my eyes anymore. The person was wanton and arrogant, constantly killing everything. The entire void was slashed open, and endless memorial tablets poured down like an ocean, as if to drown the sword demon. However, when the sword demon slashed out with his sword, all the memorial tablets were sent flying. They could not even get close to the sword demon. The sword demon now was stronger than he was in the past. Pitiful junior, you've been trapped in my soul. After a while you'll definitely die. Ha ha ha. The sword demon constantly leaped in the void, killing everything in his way. The will of the world is the final destination of the great Tao. He roared as he killed, his murderous aura billowing. What was shocking was that he actually came from the will of the world in the past. At this moment in the vast white space, Lin Ling also went crazy. Damn it! How dare you seize my body? What bullshit, sword demon! Lin Ling never thought that he would fail miserably. Moreover, in this sacred mountain, he had failed miserably twice. Because he really did not expect that the sword demon, who was beheaded, was still alive. Something is not right. No matter what kind of power I use here, I can't break this place. Even if my body is seized and my power is occupied by the sword demon, I still have a part of my power under my control. No, this is the world of souls, the sword demon's soul. Other people's souls are in the state of an ocean. I didn't expect the sword demon's soul to be so strong. It is in the state of a world. Chapter 4454. Rumble. The terrifying soul power was like a sea urchin, wreaking havoc in all directions. The originally white space began to crack. How is this possible? Junior, you. At this time, the sword demon's shocked voice sounded. He obviously did not expect this nameless junior's soul to be so powerful. It was actually stronger than his. One had to know that he was an ancient figure from the area of gods, and a giant in the divinity realm. Die! Lin Ling activated the step of wisdom, and crazily attacked the entire space, causing cracks to spread continuously. Stop! The previously domineering sword demon panicked. As he had just been resurrected, he did not have any means to seal Lin Ling apart from his soul. Therefore, he used his soul to seal Lin Ling. However, he did not expect that by sealing Lin Ling in his soul, he would place Lin Ling at his weakest point. Stop your ass. Go to hell. Lin Ling's soul power did not weaken. Instead, it became even more ferocious. It was like a surging river, like the void of the universe. Crack. Crack. The cracks in the entire soul space became even more severe. We can talk. Why don't I become your sword? What do you think? Scram. Junior, you know who I am. Back then, I killed more than 1 billion gods. How dare you be so rude to me? Die. Enough. At most, after I become your sword, I will be under your control forever. The sword demon kept negotiating with Lin Ling. He was completely terrified. However, Lin Ling had already suffered once. He did not trust the sword demon anymore. You dare to trick me? I want your soul to be destroyed forever. Lin Ling unleashed all his soul power and attacked the soul space. Rumble. The sword demon's soul finally could not take it anymore. It began to shatter and gradually turned into dust. I never thought that I would not die in the hands of the gods, but in the hands of a nameless junior after the era of gods. I am not willing to accept this. The sword demon's angry voice also came from the soul space. He thought that once he was resurrected, he would be able to defeat everything, and no one in this world would be able to suppress him. However, a junior he met right after his resurrection killed him just like that. Moreover, in the age of the gods, such a junior would have been an existence akin to a mountain guardian in a sect. Boom! After the soul world shattered, Lin Ling began to take back his physical body. However, he also sensed an endless amount of killing intent rushing into his soul, giving him the idea of killing everything. Kill. He raised his sword and slashed in all directions. Then, he rushed out of the crack in the void. His sword danced in the air continuously. The sea of blood was like a demon, like a murderous beast, slashing apart the void in front of him. No one could stop it. Boom! The ancient tomb exploded and a demon-like figure rushed out from the ground. Chapter 44-55. Rumble. Just as the old man thought that, another sword slashed over, crossing the ancient river, and quickly landing on the old man's body. Visualize the 5 skandhas convenient Tao. The old man's right hand shook and a locust tree branch appeared. He looked in front of him and viciously swept it out. Whoosh! The terrifying blood sea sword landed on the locust tree branch, causing the mysterious branch to creak, as if it was about to break. However, the old man waved his hand, and the blood sea sword bounced back and landed in the spirit tablet array in the distance. The entire array shook, then cracked, and countless spirit tablets tumbled like an ocean. This also caused the Kirishin in the array to look up, and then they were all shocked. They also knew that the locust tree old monster was not much weaker than them. But Lin Ling's sword actually took the old monster's full strength. You've returned from the cemetery. At this moment, the old man gritted his teeth and retreated, roaring angrily. The earth shook and the tombs collapsed, and the sound came from the cemetery. In addition, the kid had also gone in the direction of the tomb, which meant that the kid had returned from the cemetery alive. The old man knew very well what was in the cemetery, and even he could not get close. He never thought that the kid would be able to come out alive. Kill! Lin Ling's eyes were still cold and unfeeling as he slashed out again. Whoosh! The old man also waved the locust tree branch in his hand, and the divine stairs spat out, blocking the sword. It really is the sovereign divine stairs. Could this kid be the reincarnation of an ancient divine object? Although he blocked the sword, the old man was still shocked. He was certain that the gods surrounded in the array did not have sovereign divine stairs. In fact, 2 of them did not even have one. As for sovereign level god steps, they were extremely rare. One had to know that the divine stairs represented the void Tao, and it was divided into 6 levels: elementary, sense, sovereign, grand elementary, ancient and grand beginning, eternal. Only the ancient gods of the age of the gods and the prehistoric era had a chance to reach the sovereign level. Luckily, his realm is not high, and using the divine steps consumes a lot of divine essence. He won't be able to hold on for long, and from the looks of it, he seems to have lost his mind. This is beneficial to me. The old man thought coldly as he retreated. Then he shouted, "Kid, come and kill me. Let's see if you can kill me." Lin Ling did not say a word. The blood sea sword in his hand continued to slash out. Rumble! The entire manor seemed to have been shattered. Even though the old man could barely block Lin Ling's sword, it was an arduous and unrewarding task. However, the confidence in his heart continued to support him. That was because there were tens of thousands of divine steps. There were soul, flame, lightning, death, life, and so on. In order to use these divine steps, one had to have the corresponding power and divine embryo as a foundation. For example, the soul attribute was the most profound divine steps. It required an enormous amount of spiritual strength. When it was used, it was the most invincible existence among all the divine stairs. As for the murderous divine steps, it required a powerful physical body and divine essence, in addition to endless murderous aura. Although the murderous divine steps' offensive power was ranked among the top of the divine steps, it was obvious that using it consumed more energy. Swoosh, swoosh. Lin Ling's sword was unruly and unruly. It was decisive as it continued to slash out. His mind had been submerged by the murderous aura. He only wanted to kill. This feeling was similar to when he was on the island of Ling Nation. If he did not kill to his heart's content, Lin Ling would not withdraw his sword. Moreover, this feeling was even more intense than the last time. This also caused him to forget to use the third stage innate skill fusion. Otherwise, the old pagoda tree spirit would not have been able to block his sword. But even so, every time the old pagoda tree spirit blocked Lin Ling's sword, endless death aura would spread out from his body. This death aura was vast and boundless. If it were placed in the void of the 9 continents, it would drown 10,000 worlds and kill everything. This was because this death aura came from ancient times. It was condensed by absorbing the power of ancient gods. After so many years, it had reached an incomparably terrifying level. This was also the reason why the patriarch of the Ox Demon clan and the others thought that this old man was not weak. It was just that the old man had concealed it at the beginning, so they did not notice it. Rumble. The terrifying murderous aura and the death aura collided violently, forming a huge storm that swept across the world. In the distant land, countless ancient tombs collapsed and the ground caved in. This crazy battle continued for a full 3 incense sticks time. The pagoda tree in the old man's hand was covered in leaves. Each leaf contained 100,000 years worth of death aura. Now it was being cut down by Lin Ling. What's going on? The old man felt that something was wrong. It was because Lin Ling did not seem to be tired. He could still slash out continuously, and the more he slashed, the more terrifying it was. How could this kid hold on for so long with the divine energy of a mid-stage lower deity? Moreover, where did his murderous aura come from? It seemed to be endless. Moreover, to kill 1,000 enemies and injure 800 of oneself, one must have a strong physical body to support the execution of the murderous divine steps. These 3 points did not seem to appear on Lin Ling. No, this murderous aura does not belong to him. He obtained it in the tomb. Heavens, he actually obtained the memorial tablet of an ancient god. Suddenly, the old man thought of something, and his eyes trembled. This meant that this kid's murderous aura was endless, and it was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Who are you? Being able to obtain the murderous aura of an ancient god was not something an ordinary person could do. Even he would find it difficult to do so. He had been here for millions of years, and he had long coveted the treasures left behind by the ancient god. However, in the end, he had not obtained any of them. Kill. Lin Ling seemed to only have one sentence. His long hair turned blood red, and it actually grew longer and longer. It danced wildly like a sea urchin, and it was terrifying at first glance. Sword strikes that were even more terrifying than the previous ones were continuously slashing out. Crack. A branch of the pagoda tree in the old man's hand finally broke. Looking into the distance, Yu and the others were still waiting outside. Moreover, they looked anxious. They had also noticed the great disturbance in the manor, but there was a powerful force blocking them, preventing them from entering the manor. Crack. However, at this moment, a huge branch of the ancient pagoda tree outside the manor fell, and then blood flowed out continuously. This also shocked Yu and the others. However, after the ancient pagoda tree trembled for a while, it began to lose branches again. Moreover, this was only the beginning, and branches continued to fall. Looking into the manor, they saw that the old man could no longer resist. The branches in his hand were continuously being slashed by Lin Ling. Meanwhile, the old man's whole body was trembling, and he gradually lost the strength to resist. Previously, He had used the power of a great divine ability to transmit Lin Ling's murderous steps to the endless ancient tombs, but it was still useless. Chapter 4456. Rumble. At the same time, the giant locust tree outside the manor fell to the ground. Smelly blood flowed out of the tree, and it began to wither. Lin Ling's expression did not change after killing the old man. His killing intent was still boiling. His gaze fell on the memorial tablet array, and he slashed out. This slash hit the array's weak point. With the old man's death, the array lost its owner, and was no longer as ferocious as before. Furthermore, Lin Ling had walked through the tomb path. Now his ability to break the barrier had more than doubled. Crash! With Lin Ling's sword, in addition to Emperor God Zhang Gang, and the others' frenzied attacks, the array finally collapsed. Countless memorial tablets were like seawater, slanting in all directions. Eventually, they stopped flowing and scattered all over the manor. He's out. Kirishin and the others immediately broke out of the array. They felt as though they had just survived a calamity. Then, they looked at Lin Ling with fear. This guy, I'm afraid he now has the true power of a god. That sword, it's crazy. Was he hiding his strength when he fought with me on the sacred mountain? The Ox Demon Patriarch and the others were trembling with fear. They still did not dare to approach Lin Ling. Lin Ling. At this time, the people outside the manor also rushed in. However, when they saw Lin Ling's long hair reaching the ground, his eyes were blood red, and he held a huge blood-red sword in his hand. They didn't dare to approach. Don't come near me. I'm suppressing the killing intent. But if you get too close, I won't be able to hold back and kill you. Lin Ling looked coldly at the crowd. If not for you and the others, he would have already killed them. Good. Titanic Crescent God's mouth twitched as he quickly nodded. I have to leave for now. You follow Emperor God Zhang Gang and leave first. I'll find you later. The black deity muttered to himself as he moved forward. Any longer. Lin Ling is now the real leg and shot up into the sky. I'm afraid his strength carrying with him a substantial killing intent. It's just that it's difficult for him to control that power. Lin Ling rushed back into the tomb. God. Lin Ling had no choice but to leave. Right now, he had been weaker than his heart's content, but now he was stronger than them. And his body wasn't damaged at all. Now his strength was even more terrifying than killing intent. Not only did he have a breakthrough in cultivation, besides he also had an extremely powerful steps he had to be heavily injured. Rumble. The more injured he was, the more terrifying his murderous and rushed back into the tomb. Legend had it that during the era of the cut open, when this sword demon directly returned to the void where the hundreds of millions of gods were drowned and annihilated. As soon as he arrived, an endless divine aura suppressed Lin Ling. It was as if all the gods and Buddhas were staring at Lin Ling. Although Yu and the others were worried about Lin Ling was in need of a place to vent his anger. They also knew that the only one who could survive this calamity was Lin Ling himself. Rumble. Lin Ling's eternal slaughter. Countless memorial tablets were sent flying. Rumble. With another slash, more memorial tablets were chopped off. However, these memorial tablets seemed to have spirits and were completely enraged. They turned into a huge vortex of memorial tablets and swept towards Lin Ling. Crash! Countless memorial tablets in the manor turned into an ocean and rushed into the void through the cracks in the void. In this way, the entire void was filled with memorial tablets. It was very terrifying. Not to mention the gods. Even the gods would be scared to the point that their legs would go soft. This was because it was as if they were facing an endless number of ancient gods. Kill. However, Lin Ling, who was in the middle of the vortex of memorial tablets, became more excited. Although he was injured, the more injured he was, the crazier he became. Moreover, he began to use the first stage of his innate ability, fusion. During this process, he was slightly calm. He knew that the sword demon was dead, but the power left behind was affecting him. With Lin Ling's current strength, it was difficult to refine this power. He could only vent his anger by continuously killing and letting this power cool down gradually. This power has been left behind in my body. It's a hidden danger. Kill. Lin Ling pounced forward, holding the big sword in his hand and continuously chopping the memorial tablets around him. After killing for an unknown period of time, Lin Ling realized that the murderous aura in his body had not weakened. Instead, it had greatly increased. This shocked him again, because if this continued, he would die of exhaustion sooner or later. Uncle! At this moment, a burst of laughter was suddenly heard. Lin Ling turned his head, and immediately saw a white tiger standing in the void not far away. Although the white tiger was trembling and frightened, the girl on the white tiger was laughing as if she was having fun. Lin Ling was shocked. Isn't this the girl? Why is she following me? Don't come over. Leave immediately. Lin Ling said coldly. Uncle's murderous aura can't affect me. Moreover, I'm not afraid. Little White is not afraid either. The girl said with a smile. She kicked the white tiger and made it walk towards Lin Ling. However, the white tiger's legs were already trembling. It could not endure the girl's willfulness and could only brace itself and walk over. Scram! Lin Ling shouted angrily. He was afraid that he would not be able to control his murderous aura and kill the girl. However, the girl was still stubborn and ran over casually. However, this also made Lin Ling realize that the girl's arrival did not affect his murderous aura at all. It was as if the girl was not human, so his murderous aura did not want to kill her. It was very strange. How can this be? Lin Ling frowned. The girl rode the white tiger and arrived beside Lin Ling. She laughed and said, Uncle, I'm right. It's really strange. However, you're also crazy. If you're wrong, then I won't be able to control myself and will kill you. Lin Ling said coldly. As the girl came closer, the feeling became more intense. Although Lin Ling still wanted to kill to his heart's content, he could not bring himself to kill the girl. One had to know that in the past, he would have wanted to kill Yu and the others, but it was weaker. I'm not afraid. The girl shook her head bravely. Because if you want to kill, you can kill Little White first. White Tiger. The girl looked at Lin Ling and said, At first, I didn't know who it was. But after seeing you, I had a feeling that it was you. This is also a great calamity for me. I have to help you in order to cross this great calamity. Alright, then I'll help you open those memorial tablets. Lin Ling also knew that the young girl really didn't know a lot, so he didn't ask anymore. Then, he held the Tyrant Song sword and rushed toward the spirit tablet vortex in front of him. Third stage. This time, Lin Ling activated the third stage of talent fusion. Now his realm-swallowing beast and evil ghost jellyfish had both reached the level of intermediate gods. The third stage of talent fusion's power had also increased greatly. In addition to the killing steps, he immediately cut a hole in the spirit tablet vortex in front of him. Junior, how dare you? The spirit tablets all spoke in unison, mixed with the majesty of ancient great gods. If it was before, Lin Ling would have been scared to the point of his legs turning to jelly. After all, these were ancient great gods. However, Lin Ling was now a god. In addition to his murderous aura, he was not afraid at all. After the spirit tablet maelstrom was cut open, a stone tablet could be seen floating in the center of the maelstrom. Upon closer inspection, this stone tablet was a miniature version of the West Memorial stone tablet that was seen outside. It was also modeled in ancient. Uncle, let me do it. At this time, the young girl rode on the white tiger and rushed in through the hole. Then she stopped in front of the West Memorial stone tablet. She reached out her small hand and gently touched the stone tablet. A white light spread out. It was very gentle, as if it was cracking something. However, strangely, the power hidden in the stone tablet quietly melted when it came into contact with the white light. Then, the stone tablet kept shrinking until it was the size of a palm, and was held in the young girl's palm. Uncle, here you go. The young girl gently pushed the stone tablet in her palm. For me? Lin Ling was shocked. However, the stone tablet had already floated over and disappeared into Lin Ling's body. This made Lin Ling feel that there was something extra in his soul. I just need to find the other 3 stone tablets. The young girl rode on the white tiger and rushed out of the spirit tablet vortex. Behind her, Lin Ling frowned and hurriedly followed. Looking at the surrounding spirit tablets, they had all stopped rotating and were motionless, as if they were sealed. The young girl brought Lin Ling out of the void and arrived at the manor outside. Then, she said to Lin Ling, Let's go to the North Memorial stone tablet. Okay. Lin Ling nodded and took the lead. He raised his sword and rushed to the North Memorial stone tablet. Kill. Along the way, Lin Ling killed anyone who stood in his way. Of course, he also met many gods. That's Lei Gong, whom the young clan leader wants to kill. Chapter 4458. After finding the foundation of North Memorial Temple, Lin Ling quickly arrived at South Memorial Temple under the guidance of the young lady. Kill. Lin Ling realized that the murderous aura from West Memorial Temple to North Memorial Temple was still boiling. He did not know when it would weaken. South Memorial Temple was the quietest place. Although it also had lone tombs, there were fewer of them compared to West Memorial Temple and North Memorial Temple. There were also many treasures hidden in these ancient lands. Therefore, there were scattered gods who were plundering the gods' lands. Whoosh! Whoosh! A bone-chilling wind blew along the land. Several figures wearing large cloaks were strolling on the land. Crack! The bones under their feet were crushed by them. Along the way, they also encountered one or two deity-level powerhouses. Die! However, no matter what sort of background they had, they would all attack them, kill them, and then seize their treasures. They are the heavenly sovereigns of South Memorial Temple. They are the elites of Spirit Nation. Run! When Eugene saw this group of people from afar, his expression changed drastically, and he fled frantically. The few people behind him were like the Grim Reaper. They walked forward expressionlessly, and did not even look at the few people who were running away. Luckily, they did not chase after us. I heard that this group of Spirit Nation elites is sweeping through South Memorial Temple. Everyone they encounter will die. Even the deities cannot escape death. Let's leave quickly. Stop talking nonsense. The three people who were running away rushed forward at lightning speed. When they could no longer see the Spirit Nation elites, they finally let out a sigh of relief. Crow. However, a crow's cry was heard. On top of an ancient tombstone in front of them, a black crow stood there. It was very strange, and was looking at them with a cold gaze. Lone tombs and black crows. Such a scene made one's scalp tingle. Scram! One of the deities frowned and then shouted angrily. He knew very well that although South Memorial Temple had the least number of ancient tombs, it did not mean that it was safe. Other than the Spirit Nation elites, there were also gods and demons hidden underground. It was said that those who encountered them would die. Hence, the sudden appearance of the crow made them afraid that they had encountered the gods and demons of ancient tombs. Kiki, don't worry. I am not the gods and demons of South Memorial Temple. Suddenly the crow spoke in human language. The three deities were startled, and one of them asked anxiously, "Who are you?" "I am Black Crow Old Man." Boundless darkness began to spread out, transforming into clouds and mist that engulfed the three deities. Black Crow Old Man, you're a Sky Sovereign's man. The faces of the three deities turned pale, and their bodies trembled. Didn't we escape? No, spare me, spare me. Chapter 4459. Steps of the Gods. Those under the canopy were the elites of Eugene's main hall. Their strength was monstrous, but when they saw Black Crow's technique, their expressions changed drastically. Steps of the Gods were even more terrifying than the power of the gods. Kiki, not bad. At least there are people who know what's good for them. However, when this old man was arrogant in the era of the gods, you people had yet to be reincarnated. Let me tell you, my steps of the gods are of the Tao Sense realm, and I have yet to recover my strength. Otherwise, it would definitely be of the Dominator realm. Black Crow brought endless darkness to drown the world. He actually had the power of the soul. What's the Tao Sense realm? Insignificant skill. Hearing this, an old man beside Eugene said disdainfully. However, Eugene's expression changed slightly. She said solemnly, "Everyone be careful. This person's steps of the gods are very powerful. There are 6 steps of the gods. Beginner, Tao Sense, Dominator, Grand Beginner, Ancient, Taisher, and Eternal. He has already reached the first step. He's probably a god from the era of the gods." What? At this moment, everyone was shocked. However, Yoshin's expression grew even more unsightly, because she was able to discern that Heiya wasn't the strongest amongst them, while the robust man was the most terrifying amongst them. Coupled with the fact that she was injured, the situation was definitely bad. Die. A cold voice sounded. In the blink of an eye, white bones appeared under the black clouds. One of the Kirishan experts had turned into white bones. King He. Seeing this, Eugene cried out in heartache, "Eugene, it will be your turn soon." However, at this moment, Black Crow also let out a cackle. Eugene of the four great gods is cold, but also very beautiful. Before we die today, let's have a good time. The other experts of the spirit kingdom sneered as well. In the past, they could only look up to the four great gods. They did not even dare to blaspheme them. However, now that Eugene was injured, this was their chance. Therefore, they were excited just thinking about it. After all, not everyone had the fortune to taste a god. In your dreams, Yushin shouted and waved her hand, causing a black lotus to appear on her palm. The black lotus spun and spat out a large amount of darkness, which collided with the darkness released by the crow. Surprisingly, the darkness was stronger than the crow's. This woman is actually so strong. If I wasn't injured, I definitely wouldn't be her match. However, she's also a god left behind from the age of the gods. It's normal for her to have such strength, the crow said coldly. However, when he thought about how such an expert was going to be suppressed by him, he became excited. I'll do it. Heavenly Supreme God Bone. All of a sudden, divine light erupted in the sky, and a giant descended. It was like a deity, like a supreme deity, and a fist smashed out like rotten weeds. Rumble. This punch actually broke through the darkness, causing Eugene to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was injured again. Actually, if he was at his peak, then this punch wouldn't be worth mentioning at all. But now, even 20,000 strands of the force of gods was able to give her enormous pressure. Heavenly Sovereign Divine Blood Boil. Seeing that Eugene was injured, the man's aura increased once again. He struck out with his palm, which was like a torrential river. Poof! This time, Eugene was sent flying and smashed onto the ground. Her face was as pale as a sheet of paper. My lord! The experts below Eugene shouted worriedly. However, they were suppressed by the crow and the rest. Bang! 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 The expert called Heavenly Supreme walked towards Eugene step by step. His footsteps were like thunder, causing the earth to shake. Although I don't get close to women, I haven't experienced the body of a god. So let me have a taste. As he walked forward, the Heavenly Supreme took off his armor and threw it on the ground, causing a loud rumble. Dream on. Eugene struggled to stand up. However, the Heavenly Supreme sneered. He clenched his fist, causing a loud rumble. Then, he looked at Eugene and punched her. This punch didn't land on Eugene's body. Instead, it went past her body. However, the powerful force still caused Eugene to tremble and fall again. At this moment, she hated herself for being stupid. She also hated Lily Empress for being heartless. If it weren't for Lily Empress, she wouldn't have ended up in this state. It wasn't a big deal for her to be severely injured at any other time. However, it was when the sacred mountain opened. She obviously didn't want to miss out on the treasures of the sacred mountain. Therefore, she took the risk to enter the sacred mountain. If I wasn't injured, I could kill these ants by myself. Eugene looked coldly at the Heavenly Supreme and the rest. However, the Heavenly Supreme and the rest sneered at her. Crow even transformed into an old man. He had an evil smile on his face and kept licking his lips. Damn it! Eugene cursed angrily. However, she knew that there was nothing she could do. Lord Eugene. Below Eugene's screen, they were all lying on the ground and shouting angrily. They were loyal to Eugene. Therefore, they didn't want Eugene to end up like this. The most despicable thing was that the Heavenly Supreme and the rest of the experts didn't kill them. They wanted them to watch Eugene be humiliated with their own eyes. Rumble. However, at this moment, a terrifying rumbling sound resounded. In the distant sky, a surging killing intent seemed to have materialized as it majestically flew across the sky. In the sky, a man with long blood-red hair flew across the sky. He was holding a sword and his face was full of murderous intent. However, he didn't fly towards Eugene. Instead, he flew in the other direction. However, wherever he passed, there was a rain of blood that obliterated everything. It's Lei Gong. Such a terrifying scene was witnessed by everyone. Yoshin's people were all shocked. Lin Ling. Eugene stared at Lin Ling, who was gradually disappearing. Suddenly, a sense of anticipation rose in her heart. She obviously wanted Lin Ling to help her. However, when she thought of the scene on the sacred mountain, she was too embarrassed to ask. At that time, Lin Ling wanted to kill Lily Empress. However, she tried her best to protect Lin Ling. She even told Lin Ling that Lin Ling had been blinded by hatred and had lost his mind. However, in the end, she realized that she was wrong. In fact, she was terribly wrong. Because she trusted Lily Empress, she had ended up in this state. At that time, Lin Ling had tried to persuade her, but she didn't listen. Sir! Eugene couldn't help but shout when she saw Lin Ling fly further and further away. Lin Ling! Although it was a great humiliation, and she was too ashamed to face Lin Ling, Eugene still spoke up in the end. However, it was too late for her to speak up now. Lin Ling had already disappeared into the distance and seemed to be heading somewhere. Therefore, he didn't have the time to care about his surroundings. He would only kill anything that stood in his way. He's gone. In the end, he's gone. Seeing this, Eugene finally collapsed to the ground. She had completely lost all hope of survival. It's Lin Ling. The Spirit Nation cultivators were also looking at the sky in the distance with furrowed brows. Chapter 4460. Lei Gong, the most wanted criminal in the Spirit Nation? Hee, the battle on the celestial mountain shook the realm of the gods. Unfortunately, although he is Lei Gong, he does not have the strength of the previous Lei Gong. As for the Heavenly Supreme, he snorted in disdain. Although Lin Ling was strong, he had assessed himself and knew that Lin Ling was no match for him. This was because his strength was half a step into the ranks of the gods. He was even stronger than Lin Ling. If it weren't for Eugene here, I would have killed Lin Ling first. Lin Ling, you have been saved by Eugene. The Heavenly Supreme did not chase after Lin Ling. Between Lin Ling and Eugene, it was obvious that the latter was the real enemy of the Spirit Nation. Sir, let me do it. At this moment, an expert had already taken off his cloak and was slowly taking off his clothes. He looked at Eugene maliciously. Go. The Heavenly Supreme nodded. He looked around and saw that Black Crow Old Man was also taking off his clothes. This group of bastards can't wait. Rumble. However, before the expert could get close to Eugene, the Blood Sea Sword came and killed the expert in an instant. One had to know that the Spirit Nation expert had the strength of a middle-lower deity. It was impossible to kill him in one move. Who is it? Everyone was shocked. Black Crow Old Man, who had taken off half of his clothes, was stunned. However, when they looked around, they saw that a man with blood-red hair had appeared in the sky. It was as if he had been there from the beginning. No one had noticed his arrival. Moreover, for some unknown reason, when this man appeared, everyone felt a terrifying pressure assault them. It was very cold, so cold that it penetrated their hearts, causing them to have the feeling that they didn't dare to look directly at him. Lin Ling. Then, a series of exclamations began to be heard. Eugene's eyes were filled with excitement. She did not expect Lin Ling to come back. Black Crow Old Man's pupils were also trembling. He had already lost to Lin Ling twice. He had an innate fear towards Lin Ling. The Sky Supreme narrowed his eyes, as if this was the first time he was seeing Lin Ling, and he was filled with curiosity about Lin Ling. Lin Ling, there's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Suddenly, one of the Spirit Nation's powerhouses spoke in a chilling voice. Although Lin Ling's sudden arrival had made him wary, he knew that he had the Heavenly Sovereign and Black Crow Elder on his side. Both of them were top-notch deities, especially the Heavenly Supreme, who was already half a step away from becoming a deity. Compared to Lordy back then, his strength was more than double. Kill. However, Lin Ling only had one sentence, and that was to kill. He couldn't be bothered to speak any more nonsense. He only wanted to kill everyone here. Previously, he had been searching for the foundation of the Southern Memorial Temple. However, he suddenly heard someone shouting his name, so he followed the voice and came here. The Blood Sea Sword slashed out. The Spirit Nation's powerhouse who spoke earlier was sliced into two. Such a terrifying slash shocked everyone. It was too fast. A mid-stage lower deity had fallen just like that. Lin Ling, you won't be able to escape today. Black Crow Old Man shouted, and wanted to join forces with the Heavenly Supreme to kill Lin Ling. Kill. What welcomed him was a slash, the Blood Sea Sword. Plop. Black Crow Old Man's head fell off, and his eyes were wide open. Too fast. He had actually died, and was killed by a slash? How was this possible? This was the only thought Black Crow Old Man had before he died. Clearly, he would never have thought that he would die here. And die so cleanly. One had to know that he had yet to recover his strength from back then. So strong. The Heavenly Supreme's pupils constricted. Lin Ling was different from what he had imagined. He was much stronger than a year ago. What was going on? He couldn't help but lower his head to look at his palm. He saw that the blue liquid in his palm had unknowingly turned red. This is a bad omen. The Heavenly Supreme looked at his palm in disbelief. When did the situation become like this? For a moment he didn't dare to move. He was very afraid. As for the remaining Spirit Nation's powerhouses, they were expecting the Heavenly Supreme to kill Lin Ling. However, when they saw the Heavenly Supreme's expression, they felt that something was wrong. Could it be that the Heavenly Supreme had no confidence? One had to know that the Heavenly Supreme was the deity who was about to take over Lord Ning's position in the Spirit Nation. This time, they didn't dare to move. Their expressions were incomparably solemn. Time seemed to have frozen. The Heavenly Supreme looked at his palm solemnly, constantly checking the signs. However, the liquid in his palm was still red and didn't change at all. However, at this moment, Lin Ling's sword moved slightly. This also caused the liquid in the Heavenly Supreme's hand to quietly turn blue. Blue 60% chance I can win. The Heavenly Supreme's pupils constricted. He was actually a little excited. Although he didn't know why the ominous heavenly water would change, it had always been accurate. There was no way it would lie to him. This meant that at this moment, he had a 60% chance of killing Lin Ling. One had to know that in a battle between powerhouses, a single breath, a single thought could change the entire situation. Therefore, the current Lin Ling must have a flaw, or the cultivation technique that he was practicing had produced a side effect. Kill. The Heavenly Supreme seized the opportunity. With a shake of his arm, the Heavenly God's supreme bone appeared. This kind of talent was among the intermediate deities. Although his cultivation was only at the intermediate lower deity realm, his talent was amazing. Therefore, he was well groomed in the Spirit Nation. The Heavenly Supreme has moved. He usually doesn't make a move. Once he does, it means that he has full confidence. Even if he doesn't have full confidence, he must have the confidence to kill Lord Lei Gong. Kill. All the powerhouses of the Spirit Nation were excited. Eugene and the others were extremely nervous, especially Eugene. She knew how strong the Heavenly Supreme was. If he were to compare himself to Lin Ling a year ago, Lin Ling would not be a match for him. Rumble. The Heavenly Supreme's divine fist broke through time and space as it madly pressed down on Lin Ling. This punch contained a total of 40,000 divine forces. Before the Heavenly Supreme punched, he looked at the ominous heavenly water in his palm again. When he saw that it was still blue, his confidence was boosted. Lei Gong, you are dead meat. With no more worries in his heart, the Heavenly Supreme's strength increased by another notch. At this moment, Lin Ling squinted his eyes. This was because he sensed that the murderous aura in his body was fluctuating. Because of this, it was slightly affecting him. However, when he sensed the Heavenly Supreme's attack, he finally opened his eyes. At this moment, an extremely terrifying murderous aura was gushing out. It was as if a calm sea had suddenly turned into a violent storm. The sword was slashed out from Lin Ling's hand. Crack. The ferocious Heavenly Supreme's divine fist cracked, and then it exploded. My fist. The Heavenly Supreme was shocked. Unbelievable. He even doubted his own eyes. That was because the Thunder God had actually broken his divine God's supreme fist with a single strike. What on earth had happened? Chapter 4461. A year ago, Lin Ling could only kill Lily Empress and Han Xia when they joined forces. He was not a real god. However, a year later, Lin Ling gave him the feeling that he was a god. The steps of God, at least of the Dominator level. Suddenly, The Heavenly Supreme thought of something, and his eyes trembled. Rumble. However, this was the only thought he had before he died. Lin Ling slashed out again, and easily cut him in half. Blood spurted out, and the Heavenly Supreme could only watch as his upper body slid down and crashed onto the ground. However, at this moment, he saw the heavenly water in his other hand. The heavenly water was black, and it was a sign of great misfortune. One thought could bring great fortune, and one thought could bring great misfortune. Misfortune, good fortune, all depended on Lin Ling's thoughts. Plop. When he crashed onto the ground, the Heavenly Supreme finally knew why he had died. Dead, the Heavenly Supreme is dead too. The remaining Spirit Nation elites were all trembling in fear. They had dominated the Southern Memorial Hall and killed all who stood in their way. However, they had finally met their nemesis today. Run. They were afraid and wanted to leave this place immediately. Kill. However, it was too late to escape now. Lin Ling took a step forward and slashed out with his blood sword, easily reaping their lives. After a while, he walked towards Eugene, and the rest with his sword in hand. The murderous aura in his eyes did not diminish. So strong, Lin Ling has become so strong. Seeing the grim demon walking towards her, Eugene felt uneasy. However, she also realized that Lin Ling's murderous intent towards her did not diminish at all. It was as if he wanted to kill her too. This made her smile bitterly. Forget it. Dying in your hands is better than dying in the hands of the Spirit Nation. Moreover, I know that Titanic Crescent God, and I forced Lei Gong to his death. That's why you hate us so much. Now avenge Lei Gong. I have no regrets even if I die. Eugene closed her eyes and allowed Lin Ling to kill her. Lord Lei Gong, please don't kill Lord Eugene. Kill me instead. Spare me. Back then, Lady Eugene forced Lei Gong of the older generation to his death. That wasn't her intention. She only treated the world well as her enemy. She's someone who only cares about things and not people. Eugene's fans were all kowtowing to Lin Ling, pleading for Eugene. Moreover, they had never imagined that the trial taker Lin Ling from back then would have already reached such heights. Killing gods was as easy as flipping his hand. When he recalled all of this, he found it hard to believe, as if he was dreaming. Kill. However, Lin Ling did not care about them at all. After killing Eugene, he wanted to kill all of them as well. Lord Lei Gong, old Lei Gong, he didn't die. Seeing that Lin Ling was being merciless, one of the old men couldn't help but roar. Pa! Lin Ling stopped in his tracks, suppressing the terrifying killing intent in his body. He stared coldly at the old man who spoke. Elder Lan, what are you talking about? Even Eugene opened her eyes in disbelief. Both the Titanic Crescent God and I saw this. Although I wasn't sure, the Titanic Crescent God told me that it should be Lord Lei Gong. We met him when we first entered the Celestial Mountain. Now old Lei Gong should be in the depths of West Memorial. The old man gritted his teeth and said, everything I said is true. If I lie, I will forever be a demon. Lei Gong. Lin Ling's eyes flickered as if he was thinking about something. In the end, he didn't say a word. He lifted his sword and flew into the distance. Although he wasn't sure if Lei Gong was still alive, his intuition told him that the old man didn't lie to him. In exchange for agreeing to his conditions, he would spare Eugene's life. Furthermore, if the old man had lied to him, he wouldn't be able to escape from Lin Ling's pursuit in the future. Lin Ling. Eugene had a complicated expression as she watched Lin Ling leave. She recalled the handsome young man under Lei Gong's banner. Back then, she looked down on the young man. Now she had to look up to him. She even needed the young man's help to escape this calamity. Thank you. Although Lin Ling had granted her life, Eugene didn't feel embarrassed. She owed Lin Ling too much. This was retribution that she deserved. Uncle, over here. In the distant sky, the Empyrean fairy was waiting for Lin Ling on her white tiger. Lin Ling walked towards the Empyrean fairy. However, he was thinking about Lei Gong. Was Lei Gong really still alive? How could that be? Could it be the Spirit Nation? One should know that the Spirit Nation had the ability to resurrect. Wang Shui was a living example. Therefore, it wasn't impossible for the Spirit Nation's god to resurrect Lei Gong. Furthermore, Lei Gong was one of the hosts of the world's consciousness. It was no small matter. The spirit nation's god might resurrect him. I can only know if it's real when I see it with my own eyes. Lin Ling mumbled to himself. He collected his thoughts and looked forward. However, at this moment, countless black shadows rushed up from the ground. They then surrounded the young girl and the white tiger. In the blink of an eye, the young girl and the white tiger disappeared. Caw. At the same time, the cawing of crows could be heard. Upon closer inspection, a large group of human-faced ghost crows had appeared in front of them. This happened very quickly. In addition, Lin Ling was distracted previously. Therefore, he didn't notice it at all. The human-faced ghost crows stared at Lin Ling. Their eyes were cold and sarcastic as if they were mocking Lin Ling. Kill. Lin Ling was instantly enraged. The Empyrean fairy had been snatched away in front of him. This was unforgivable. Moreover, someone dared to snatch her in front of him. This was forcing him to start a massacre. Crows. Sensing Lin Ling's murderous aura, countless human-faced ghost crows let out strange caws. Then, they swarmed towards Lin Ling. One should know that one human-faced ghost crow required the combined efforts of the light golden dragon and the rest to defeat it. However, there was more than one human-faced ghost crow here. Hee, this young girl is quite extraordinary. I can give her to the king. At this moment, a pitch-black human-faced ghost crow glided across the ground. It was different from the other human-faced ghost crows. There was a white line on its back, and it could speak human language. As for that kid, I'll treat him as nourishment for my subordinates. However, that kid is too skinny. I'm afraid my subordinates won't be able to eat their fill. After laughing coldly, the human-faced ghost crow dived into the ground and disappeared. However, he didn't notice that the sky was filled with crows. The human-faced ghost crows were flying back and forth at an extremely fast speed. However, soon countless feathers fell from the sky. Bang! 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 Those human-faced ghost crows fell like rain. Among the endless black feathers, a figure shot towards the ground like a god of death. How dare you capture my people? Kill without mercy. Chapter 4462. Russell. Many of the human-faced ghost crows were drooling, but they did not dare to act rashly. Looking at the front of the cave, there were countless white bones and skulls. They were densely packed and piled up like a mountain. Among them, there was a chair made of white bones. Sitting on it was an evil-looking young man in a black cloak. The young man crossed his legs and had a smile on his face. My king, I've caught her. The human-faced ghost crow carrying the young girl immediately put her down. Caw, 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 caw. Many crows flew down and looked at the young girl curiously. Why? Are you interested in her too? The devilish young man said with a chuckle. Caw. The surrounding human-faced ghost crows were shocked and quickly retreated. The human-faced ghost crows did not dare to get close to the young girl. Ha ha ha. The devilish young man swung his cloak and walked toward the young girl. He sized her up and said, "This girl is not simple. She has a mysterious power in her body. I'm afraid she's the reincarnation of a god from ancient times. If I can get this power, my strength will increase tremendously. I'll dominate from the age of gods to the flood, the age of desolation." Obviously, he had noticed the young girl and ordered his subordinates to catch her. "Congratulations, my king." Voices came from all around. It was obvious that there were many human-faced ghost crows that could speak human language. These human-faced ghost crows were undoubtedly stronger. "Oh right, I saw a lunatic beside this girl. Where is that lunatic?" The devilish young man suddenly asked. He looked young, but in fact he had lived for millions of years. He was the mount of a god from ancient times, and had been trapped in the sacred mountain for millions of years. He was extremely powerful, and was the king of Southern Memorial. "He's dead. The human-faced ghost crow immediately laughed. "Not bad. You've won my heart. I'll reward you greatly for this. That white tiger is also an extraordinary species. I'll reward it to you." The devilish young man smiled faintly. "Thank you, my king. Thank you, my king." The human-faced ghost crow knelt down and kowtowed. The surrounding human-faced ghost crows were extremely envious. Rumble. However, at this moment the cave shook. Then, a figure broke through the cave and descended from the sky. Bang! The moment he crashed into the ground, the entire cave shook, waking up countless sleeping human-faced ghost crows. Crash! Moreover, this turbulence caused the skeletons in the cave to collapse. However, just as they were about to submerge the evil youth remained motionless, and the skeletons turned into ashes. "That lunatic didn't die, and he even came to us personally." The evil-looking young man stared at the newcomer and smiled evilly. "Spare my life, your majesty. Spare my life." It was like a circular shockwave that gushed out in all directions. Whoosh! Countless feathers scattered, and a large number of human-faced ghost crows fell to the ground, killed by the sword. Bang! 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 Following that, more and more human-faced ghost crows fell, as if they were going to fill up the entire cave. This could be called a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Amidst the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, a figure carrying a sword walked towards the evil youth step by step with a substantial killing intent. "Only 1 billion?" At the same time, a cold voice echoed in the cave, causing the evil youth to turn his head in disbelief and look deeply at the person who came. One move killed 1 billion human-faced ghost crows. This person's killing intent was too terrifying. For a moment, the two people looked at each other indifferently. One was the demon king of the divine mountain who had cultivated for 1,000,000 years, while the other was young, but had countless inheritances. He was now like the god of death in the age of gods. They looked at each other coldly, causing the cave to fall silent. However, it was like the dawn before the storm, and a destructive storm could erupt at any time. You actually killed so many of my descendants." After an unknown period of time, the evil youth put down the young girl in his hand and said coldly, "Not a lot. If you still have 1 billion, I can barely reach 70% full." Besides, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Chasing sun. All of a sudden, the evil-looking young man shouted in his heart. A pair of fiery red boots appeared on his feet. The boots were ancient, and when he stepped on the air, it actually caused the void to crack. At the same time, something strange happened. His speed suddenly skyrocketed and reached 1,000,000 world speed. Then he dodged Lin Ling's ferocious slash. A speed of 1,000,000 world paces was extremely rare, even among late-stage low gods. And this was only the boosted speed of the boots. It did not include the evil-looking young man's own speed. In fact, in total, his speed had reached 1,600,000 world speed. Rumble. After the evil-looking young man disappeared, Lin Ling's slash missed as well. Moreover, his eyes continued to flicker. What incredible speed! Then, Lin Ling's gaze fell on the evil-looking young man's legs. He saw that when the boots stepped on the void, countless flaming footprints appeared in the void. It was magnificent and mystical. "Come on, kill me," the evil-looking young man said coldly as he appeared on the other side. Then he shot out a large number of arrows. Crows. Like countless crows, they flew toward Lin Ling, wanting to devour everything. Now that the evil-looking young man had erupted with incomparably terrifying speed, it meant that he no longer had to worry about his back. Lin Ling, on the other hand, could only be beaten up without being able to fight back. "Kill!" Lin Ling slashed out with his sword and cut off the crow's arrows. Then he chased after the evil-looking young man. But unfortunately, he could not catch up to the evil-looking young man. Chapter 44-64. Some of the arrows were sliced apart by Lin Ling, while some landed on Lin Ling's body. This made the demonic youth very excited. However, in the blink of an eye, he realized that Lin Ling's body was very tough. He turned into sludge again, and all the arrows that landed on his body passed through him, causing very little damage. The chaotic body of the four great ferocious beasts. The demonic youth was shocked once again. This meant that even if Lin Ling did not retaliate, it would still be difficult for him to kill Lin Ling. What a tough bone to chew. After shooting a few more rounds of arrows, the demonic youth finally gave up completely. "What happened before was my rashness. I'll apologize to you here. I'll return the person to you. We'll mind our own business." The demonic youth left that sentence and immediately flew into the distance. He did not plan to provoke the great demon Lin Ling anymore. Lin Ling landed on the ground and released little Kunlun to protect the girl. He then took a step forward and chased after the demonic youth. Lin Ling's murderous aura had not diminished. Therefore, how could he let the person he targeted escape? He would kill him even if he had to escape to the ends of the earth. At that moment, the demonic youth had already fled far away. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, an extremely terrifying murderous aura came from behind him. The murderous aura seemed to have materialized and was like a torrential river. Damn it! The demonic youth instantly knew that he was in trouble. The other party had no intention of letting him go. He even guessed that this murderous god could be an ancient great god that had been resurrected from the tomb of the gods. "Run!" The demonic youth exploded with terrifying speed and disappeared into the distance. He did not believe that the murderous god could catch up to him. After a long time, the demonic youth sat on top of an ancient tomb in Southern Memorial Hall, panting slightly. At this point he had already been running for an hour. Based on his current speed, the god of slaughter should have lost track of him by now. With that thought in mind, he looked around and suddenly felt that something was amiss. He then realized that a strange jellyfish was floating on top of an ancient tomb not far away. The jellyfish was completely black and looked like a devil. It was staring at him indifferently. "Who is it?" Suddenly being stared at, the evil-looking young man's hair stood on end. He couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. Then he finally thought of something. It was the god of death. Oh my god. What other tricks did this god of death have up his sleeves? How could he make a jellyfish monitor him? This meant that he had no chance of escaping. As he thought of this, the sea of murderous aura in front of him had already arrived. Fuck, the vengeful spirit is still lingering. The evil-looking young man cursed and fled without another word. The two of them, one in front and one behind, had almost run through the entire southern temple. Of course, the evil young man was also very cunning. He specifically searched for the forbidden old monsters that were hidden in the southern memorial temple, in an attempt to have those monsters kill Lin Ling. At the very least, they could stall Lin Ling. But to Lin Ling, it was completely useless. Now that he had killed 1 billion human-faced ghost crows, the murderous aura had finally begun to weaken. But it had only begun. After a long time, the evil-looking young man couldn't hold it in any longer. This god of death wasn't as fast as him, but his defense and attack were strong. Coupled with the jellyfish monitoring him, he couldn't shake him off at all. Therefore, he decided to end this once and for all. After all, if this went on, he would die of exhaustion sooner or later. One had to know that the Kwafu sun chasing boots on his feet required a huge amount of divine vitality as the foundation in order to activate them. Moreover, if he used them for a long time, his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. "Sir, what are you trying to do?" Standing on a tombstone, the evil-looking young man looked at Lin Ling, who was walking slowly toward him. He was also gnashing his teeth. As the king of the Southern Memorial Temple, and a demon left behind from the Age of the Gods, he had been chased through 9 streets. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't aggrieved. "Leave that pair of boots behind," Lin Ling said indifferently as he walked toward him step by step. "In your dreams," the evil-looking young man roared. "Do you know what kind of treasure these boots are? They are one of the 12 great chaotic divine artifacts, the Kwafu sun-chasing boots. Legend has it that they were worn by the ancient Kwafu sun-chasing boots. Even in the Age of the Gods, they are one of the best treasures. How can I give them to you?" Hearing this, Lin Ling didn't say a word and looked at him coldly. The evil-looking young man had a lot of thoughts in his mind, but he knew that if he didn't hand over the boots, the god of death in front of him wouldn't let him go. Therefore, he reluctantly gave them up. "Will you let me go if I give you the Kwafu sun-chasing boots?" "No, I'll leave you a whole corpse." "Bullshit." After a short conversation, the evil-looking young man flew into a rage. He gave up the Kwafu sun-chasing boots in exchange for a whole corpse. This god of death didn't intend to let him go from the beginning to the end. "The people I want to kill have never escaped alive," Lin Ling said again. He had already raised the sword in his hand and pointed it at the evil-looking young man. Now he was like the representative of the underworld. He was so cold and merciless. "Then let's fight to the death. I'll see how you're going to kill me. At most, I'll waste my time like this. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, I can afford it." The evil-looking young man threw caution to the wind and laughed. Since they couldn't reach an agreement, there was no need to talk anymore. Let's see who can outplay who. Seal. However, as soon as he finished laughing, Lin Ling coldly spat out a voice. The wind and rain from all directions enveloped this part of the world. It was as if the whole world was shrinking. On the other hand, the evil young man noticed that an indescribable force was pressing down on him, making it difficult for him to move. The most terrifying thing was that this force didn't have any offensive power. It only had the power to seal him, greatly reducing his speed and making it difficult for him to use the Kwafu sun-chasing boots. It's the god's stairs, and it's of the soul element. Judging from its level, I'm afraid it's too elementary. The evil-looking young man panicked, was shocked and scared. He finally understood why this murderous god kept chasing him, and didn't give up at all. This murderous god actually had a way to suppress him. He just needed the right opportunity. The 6 stages of the god's stairs were elementary: Tao Sense, Dominator, Grand Elementary, Ancient, and Taisha Eternal. The Grand Elementary was clearly more terrifying than the Dominator. This also meant that this murderous god's soul force had reached a terrifying level. "Don't kill me. I'll tell you a secret." With his life at stake and his greatest advantage, his speed, being suppressed, the evil-looking young man hurriedly begged for mercy. Xiao. A sword slashed down, crazily reaping the evil-looking young man's life. Then, Lin Ling raised his sword and walked forward step by step. He found the fiery red boots on the evil-looking young man's corpse. "I'm not interested in the secrets of the dead." After taking away all the treasures on the evil-looking young man, Lin Ling turned and left. Chapter 4465. 12 Chaos Divine Artifacts, the Kwafu Sun-Chasing Boots. Lin Ling held his sword and walked back step by step. At the same time, he looked at the treasure in his hand and was overjoyed. 12 Chaos Divine Artifacts. The Donghuang bell that Sheng Yi had obtained was one of them. Now he had obtained another one. Lin Ling did not expect that there would be such a pleasant surprise in the Southern Memorial Hall. Moreover, it was an unexpected and huge harvest, because he knew very well what the 12 Chaos Divine Artifacts represented. The Kwafu Sun-Chasing Boots obviously did not have any offensive power, but it could increase one's speed by a terrifying amount. One had to know that speed was the most difficult domain for a god to improve. Generally speaking, it was already very impressive if one could increase one's speed, by 100,000 worlds in one comprehension. However, the Kwafu Sun chasing boots was far more than that. Chasing that crow has wasted a lot of my time. Let's find Empyrean Fairy first. Lin Ling did not have time to touch the Kwafu Sun chasing boots for the time being. After keeping it, he ran in the direction he came from. Obviously, he was in a good mood. He even liked the feeling of killing and robbing. During this period of time, he had killed countless people and accumulated a large number of treasures. Many of these treasures came from the Tomb of the Gods and were extraordinarily powerful. After a long time, Lin Ling arrived at the place where he first came from. He saw a dense forest rising from the ground. That was Little Kunlun. Looking into the forest, he could hear the laughter of a young girl from time to time. The girl was riding on a white tiger and running wildly in the forest with an innocent look on her face. Seeing Empyrean Fairy, Lin Ling's killing intent weakened a little. Perhaps in the entire universe, only Empyrean Fairy could give him such a feeling. "Uncle, you're back." The mystic fairy was all smiles when she saw Lin Ling. However, the white tiger that she was sitting on was trembling all over. This was because it sensed a murderous aura and blood aura that was even more terrifying than before from Lin Ling. Of course, Empyrean Fairy also quickly sensed the bloody aura from Lin Ling. "Uncle, you've killed many people again," Empyrean Fairy said in surprise. She had followed Lin Ling from the Western Memorial Hall to the Northern Memorial Hall, and then to the Southern Memorial Hall. She had witnessed Lin Ling killing countless people. However, this bloody aura was truly terrifying. Yes, Lin Ling nodded. He'd killed 1 billion human-faced ghost crows, and he'd killed countless others while pursuing the evil young man. So his body was naturally filled with surging blood energy. It could be said that he'd transformed into an ocean of blood now. "Let's go. We'll go look for Nan Dian to lay the foundation now," Lin Ling said again. "This is inside the 4 foundations. There are so many souls of gods and demons locked up here." Lin Ling ignored the complicated looks and said indifferently. Through the magic words that Mystic Fairy had given him, he already knew where this place was. He also knew that the souls of gods and demons were locked up here, and it was impossible for them to break out of the prison cells. On the contrary, Lin Ling was the only warden in this prison. In this prison, other than the life and death of the souls of gods and demons, he could do whatever he wanted. Therefore, he was not afraid of these prisoners. Instead, he was curious about how strong the gods and demons were trapped in this prison that trapped the souls of gods and demons. He walked along the corridor, and the prison cells on both sides of the corridor quietly changed color and turned blue. However, no prisoners popped their heads out of the prison cells. Instead, Lin Ling saw that some of the prisoners in the prison cells were sitting cross-legged in cultivation. Some were drinking wine, and some were torturing themselves by constantly chopping off their own limbs. Their own limbs. Even when Lin Ling arrived, they did not even look at Lin Ling, which was very strange. These prisoners have become even stronger. I'm afraid they have the strength of a god. Lin Ling thought to himself and continued walking. Then he seemed to have arrived at the 3rd section of the prison cells. When he looked carefully, the prisoners in the prison cells had become even more strange. There was a snake woman, a 2-headed witch, and even a blind monk with a lantern and so on. "Sir, I beg you to let me out." A charming vixen looked at Lin Ling pitifully. Then, she exposed her shoulders and tempted Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling did not even look at her and continued walking. "This new sir is so cold. It seems that he is not easy to deal with." Chapter 4466. Hard times are coming. Look at how impartial he is. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for us to be released. Sigh. Someone else said. These prisoners were actually people who had been imprisoned here since ancient times. They were people who had committed heinous crimes. However, during the War of the Gods, the prison was broken, causing them to be lost in the era. Even so, they still could not escape from the prison. Furthermore, they could not see the sun all year round, except for a certain day every year. Every year, they could be released from the prison and enjoy a day of freedom. Of course, this freedom was only limited to the prison. However, to the gods and demons, this day was incomparably precious. After all, being trapped in a space less than 3 meters in size, and having all their means suppressed, even the gods could not bear the boredom and loneliness. However, a new warden had appeared. If they were to be deprived of that day's holiday, they could only continue to live like a year. Your Excellency, the person you're looking for is in West Memorial. You'd better hurry there immediately, because I've performed a divination for you. Your loved ones are in danger. Suddenly, an old man's voice came from one of the prison cells. Lin Ling stopped in his tracks and looked over indifferently. Then he saw a blind old man sitting in the prison cell. In front of him was a tortoise shell with a row of copper coins lined up in a row. Nonsense! Lin Ling sneered. Ha ha ha, I'm Lord Shen. My master is from the Hollow Jade Palace. For so many years, my divination has never been wrong. You're the first person to say that I'm talking nonsense. The old man suddenly laughed. Moreover, every divination I perform will shorten my lifespan by 10 years. Therefore, those who want to ask me for a divination, regardless of whether it's in the ancient times or in the ancient times, are in the ancient times or not. Even if it's not in the hundreds of millions, it's in the tens of millions. I've spent 10 years of my lifespan to perform a divination for you. But you don't know how to appreciate my kindness. Lord Shen? Lin Ling's eyes suddenly flashed. He asked, who is Shen Gongbao to you? He remembered that in the investiture of the gods, Shen Gongbao and Jiang Zia both came from the Hollow Jade Palace. This person's master was from the Hollow Jade Palace, and his surname was Shen. Therefore Lin Ling asked casually, how do you know my master? Who knew that Lin Ling's words made Shen Gongho's face change? Seeing his appearance, Lin Ling was more certain that this old man was Shen Gongbao's disciple. Let me ask you, you said that the person I'm looking for is in Shifan. Is he still alive? Lin Ling asked. Life and death, death and life. Without death, how can there be life? Shen Gongho said indifferently. The person you are looking for is no ordinary person. He is someone who changed the era. However, although he is dead, he is actually alive now. Lin Ling's pupils constricted when he heard this, because the person he was looking for was Lei Gong. Although Shen Gongho didn't say it explicitly, it clearly stated that Lei Gong was a person who changed the era. And Lei Gong was the host of the world's will. It was indeed so. Earlier, you said that my loved ones are in danger. Then where is the danger? Lin Ling asked again. Ha ha ha. Shen Gongho laughed and said indifferently. If it was a moment ago, this danger would have been wiped out. However, at this moment, fortune and misfortune have changed. Great misfortune has turned into great fortune. What you mean is that without your reminder, my family would have been wiped out. However, after your reminder, they are all fine. Lin Ling's eyes flashed as he asked. Ha ha ha. This time, Shen Gongho didn't say anything and only laughed. However, Lin Ling already knew what he meant. It meant that without Shen Gongho's reminder, Lin Ling would have wasted more time here. However, now that he knew that Yu Yu and the rest were in danger, he would definitely rush over. Therefore Yu Yu and the rest were all fine. They had escaped danger. Let me ask you again. How do I open this pair of boots? Lin Ling's previous worries had now been suppressed. The Quafu sun-chasing boots appeared in his hand as he asked. Sincerity can move metal and stone. The old man glanced at the Quafu sun-chasing boots with shock in his eyes. Then he said calmly, all right, I'll give you a day off. You can go wherever you want to go. After a day, come back on your own. Lin Ling nodded and turned to leave. At the same time, he formed a complicated seal with both hands. Then, a door appeared behind the prison cell and light bloomed from it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sensing this, the old man shouted in surprise. He bowed deeply to Lin Ling and pushed the door open to leave. He had been imprisoned for millions of years and could only face the cold iron walls every day. Now he could finally leave. Although it was only for a day, it was enough. He had to cherish this day and enjoy it to his heart's content. Lin Ling watched Shen Gongho leave indifferently. Then, he planned to leave first to help Yu Yu and the rest. As for whether Shen Gongho would return, he wasn't worried, because he knew that if Shen Gongho didn't return after a day, his soul would be destroyed, and he would never be able to reincarnate. Sir, I also have something to say. At this time, a large number of voices came from the prison cell. Obviously, they were jealous when they saw Shen Gongho leave. However, Lin Ling didn't have time to care about them. There were so many people in the prison. If he talked to them one by one, he didn't know how long it would take. So, he went to help Yu Yu and the rest first. After leaving the prison, the Dianji turned into a ray of light and disappeared into Lin Ling's body. Uncle, this Dianji will follow you forever. If you use it well, it can help you return to the divine position and become famous in the chaos. At this time, Mystic Fairy looked at Lin Ling with a smile. It seemed that after helping Lin Ling, she had completed her mission and was no longer as carefree as before. Mystic Fairy, are you leaving? Lin Ling didn't have a hard time guessing her intentions. Yes, my mission has been completed, and I have survived a great calamity. Now I have to go back. In the future, Uncle and I will meet again. Mystic Fairy nodded with a smile. Mystic Fairy, is the Chaos Realm very far away? Lin Ling asked again. It wasn't difficult for him to guess the origin of Mystic Fairy. It's not far, but it's not near either. It's in your heart. However, what made Lin Ling speechless was that Mystic Fairy was also speaking in riddles. Uncle, goodbye. But before I leave, I have to tell you that there will be a great calamity on this trip that can destroy your divine soul. That's why I came to help you. However, although the omen of great calamity has passed, there is still good luck in the future. So, Uncle, you have to be careful. Use the things that I have given you. Help. Mystic Fairy reminded Lin Ling at the same time, as she rode the white tiger into the distance. Thank you. Lin Ling nodded, and his eyes continued to flicker. He guessed that this trip to Shidian would be dangerous. Fortunately, Mystic Fairy also told him that it would be a daunting experience without danger. Just as I guessed, someone is secretly helping me. He immediately put on the boots, and the divine energy in his dantian continued to flow into his boots. If it were other gods, they would not dare to do so easily. In the graveyard of the gods, divine energy was very important and needed to be used to guard against unexpected situations. However, Lin Ling had 7 dantians. If he consumed the divine energy in one dantian, he still had 6 dantians. This was also the reason why Lin Ling was not afraid of late-stage lower gods. At this moment, in the depths of the Western Memorial, waves of terrifying energy gushed out in all directions like seawater. Several people in green Taoist robes calmly looked at the center of it. It was Yu Yu and the others. There was God Emperor Zhang Gang, the giant ghost, the radiant golden dragon, and Yu Yu. And they were using their most powerful methods to resist the attacks from the sky. Above the sky, an ancient Buddhist lamp was floating, blooming with a gentle light. However, this light was also very domineering. When it pressed down, it brought with it a power that could destroy the heavens and earth and wipe out all demons and devils. This power was very strong. Even God Emperor Zhang Gang found it difficult to resist it. You people, who are you? Suddenly, a voice came from the ground. It was in Yuer's voice. Because God Emperor Zhang Gang and the others were using all their strength to resist the Buddhist lamp in the sky, they no longer had the energy to speak. You people should give up resisting. I can leave your corpses intact. In the sky, the few people looked at the ground indifferently. Their faces were expressionless, as if they were rewarding Yu Yu and the others. You are all late-stage lower gods and have rich divine energy. I'm afraid you have cultivated in this realm for more than 100,000 years. Why haven't I seen you in the void of the 9 prefectures? Chapter 4468. After Lin Ling left, they traveled together with the Kirishin. However, after traveling for a while, the Kirishin and Titanic Crescent God sensed a fierce battle ahead. Hence, he told them not to get close and left with the rest of the experts. Emperor God Zhang Gang and Giant Ghost were worried about Namwufingyu and wanted to go deeper. However, when they thought about Yu Yu and the others, they slowed down and waited for Lin Ling. Who would have thought that they would run into this group of people? This group of people was extremely powerful and seemed to have come for Lin Ling. They attacked as soon as they saw him. If not for their numbers, they would have been wiped out long ago. Furthermore, they could sense that this group of people was not using their true strength. 9 continents void? Hearing in Yuer's words, the few of them looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with mockery. Don't treat the void of the 9 prefectures as the entire void, because the void of the 9 prefectures is actually a part of the divine realm, and the divine realm is a part of the chaos realm. In the real void, there are as many powerful gods as there are hairs on a cow. With your strength, if you were placed in our place, you would at most be an outer sect disciple. The likes of you. One of them smiled faintly. Is that so? Yu spoke with disdain. You talk so much, but you don't even dare to tell us where you came from. In my opinion, you must be a nobody. Are you trying to goad us? The person shook his head. The reason I didn't say anything is not because I'm afraid of anything. I just thought that even if I told you, you might not know who I am. However, since you want to know, then so be it. In order to prevent you from dying without knowing why, I'll tell you. We're from Burning Heart. My name is Duan Nan. As for what Burning Heart is, haha, it's much more powerful than your so-called 4 gods. The Dragon Clan, the Immortal Spirit Empire, the 10 Orthodoxies, and the Yu Continent's divine ruler, including the Spirit Empire. The man named Duan Nan said faintly, Burning Heart. Yu and the others racked their brains, but they had never heard of this name. In fact, other than the Immortal Spirit Empire, the Dragon Clan, the Spirit Empire, the 10 Orthodoxies, and the Yu Continent's divine ruler, they had never heard of it. You came from the Chaos Realm? Suddenly, Emperor God Zhonggang roared. Didn't I tell you before? Or do you not know what the primal Chaos Realm is? Duan Nan laughed. I don't care where you came from, but since you dared to provoke Lei Gong, you will die without a doubt. As long as Lei Gong comes, you will definitely regret it. The radiant golden dragon also spoke. Hee Lei Gong Lin Ling, right? We're so scared. Duan Nan continued to laugh. His laughter was full of sarcasm and disdain. I'm sorry, but we're here for Lei Gong Lin Ling. Our Burning Heart wants to capture him alive, and you're all his people. As long as you're dead, I think even if we don't look for Lei Gong Lin Ling, he will take the initiative to seek revenge from us. Revenge? All right, I've said all that needs to be said. Now, all of you can die. Rumble. The Buddhist lamp in the sky shone brightly. Within the light, there was a Buddhist god with slender eyebrows sitting cross-legged. He was divine and extraordinary. Pop, pop, pop. The light was extremely terrifying. It actually carried a divine staircase. The power of the divine staircase was very domineering. It was like the Orthodox Buddhism. Boom! A rumbling sound was heard, and everyone under the Buddhist lamp was sent flying. A huge crater was formed on the ground. Looking around, countless graves were dug up. Coffins, tombstones, and white bones were tumbling in the sky. However, under the light of the Buddhist lamp, they were turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. Ashes. Puff. Yu and the rest fell to the ground and spat out blood. They felt their dantian rumbling, as if it was about to collapse. What a domineering power. I'm afraid only 100,000 divine power can withstand it. Even Emperor God Zhonggang fell to the ground. Beside him was the Golden Skeleton King. However, the skeleton on its body was full of cracks. Stubborn. In the sky, Duan Nan shook his head. He waved his right hand, and a man immediately strode down. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Emperor God Zhonggang. After laughing coldly, his big hand grabbed out. I can see that you are from the age of gods and your strength is not bad. Unfortunately, we are from the primeval age. That person's eyes were filled with disdain. He did not show any mercy when he attacked. I didn't expect to die here after reviving. Looking at this person's attack, Emperor God Zhonggang sighed in his heart. He wanted to resist, but he could not raise his divine vitality. Therefore, he could only close his eyes and willingly accept his death. However, he thought that he would be killed. But after waiting for a while, he did not feel anything. Even the Golden Skeleton King, who was constantly worried about him, seemed to be silent at this moment. Could it be that this god killed his Golden Skeleton King first? He suddenly opened his eyes, but he found that the golden skeleton king, who had followed him for many years, was fine. It was still sitting beside him in the form of a little skeleton. However, its empty skeleton eyes were looking in front of him. The man in front of him maintained his attacking posture, but he did not move. Looking carefully, a sword appeared in his chest. A sword had pierced through his back. It was this sword that caused this god to be unable to attack anymore. Following this person's gaze, one could immediately see a gray-robed man standing behind him. At this moment, he was holding a sword and maintaining the appearance of the sword pointing forward. Lin Ling. When he saw the person clearly, Emperor God Zhang Gang's entire body trembled. Lin Ling had finally returned. Lin Ling. Yu Yu and the others also stared at Lin Ling, and could not help but shout excitedly. Although they were about to die previously, they all had intuition that Lin Ling would definitely come. This intuition was baseless, but they firmly believed in it. Because they knew that they were the most important people to Lin Ling. Lin Ling would not let them die. Lin Ling nodded. He had killed countless people in the other 3 palaces. Now that his killing intent had weakened a little, he could barely control it. At least, he would not want to kill his own people. Lin Ling? The few people in the sky also stared at Lin Ling. In fact, this was the first time they had seen Lin Ling. You are one of the 9 states void's 4 great gods, Lei Gong. Lin Ling. Duan Nan said indifferently. He was a little shocked. He did not expect Lin Ling to come so quickly. It was as if he knew their movements like the back of his hand. Who are you people? Lin Ling raised his head and looked at them, but did not answer them. Burning Heart. Duan Nan said calmly. Chaotic Realm? Lin Ling instantly understood. However, he was also very suspicious. The people from the Chaotic Realm actually knew him? Moreover, from the looks of it, these people had specially come for him. However, he did not know anyone from the Chaotic Realm at all. Suddenly, he thought of Empyrean Fairy, and the person who had helped him in the Eternal Kingdom. Chapter 4469. Maybe it was because of the Chaos Divine Formula, or maybe it was because of some treasure, or maybe it was because of Lin Ling, or maybe it was because of Lin Ling himself. Of course, there was also a possibility that it was because of Lin Ling's previous life. Let go of my junior brother and come with us. Then, I'll spare their lives. Otherwise, they'll all die. Duan Nan didn't know what Lin Ling was thinking. Instead, he said this with a smile, looking very relaxed. Since Lin Ling was here, it was a good opportunity to bring him back and save him some trouble. Let go. Lin Ling raised his head, his face still cold. Don't worry, I'll let go. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly pulled out the sword in his hand and slashed horizontally. Rumble. A head fell to the ground and rolled like a rubber ball. Blood gushed out from the neck of the god, who was killed by the slash like a fountain. Killing a god with a single slash was as easy as slaughtering a chicken or a dog. So powerful. The pupils of Emperor God Zhang Gang and the others trembled. Previously, when Lin Ling killed the old locust tree, it took him many slashes to succeed. But now with just one slash, one should know that this person was a late-stage lower deity expert. Gods with such strength were the most difficult to kill, unless their strength was much stronger. How terrifying! Even the pupils of the light golden dragon and the others trembled. After all, when they were in the 72 caves, Lin Ling wasn't this powerful. But now, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. How could they know that when Lin Ling killed the old pagoda tree, he hadn't utilized the third stage innate talent fusion, and he'd merely utilized the steps of slaughter? Now that he'd utilized the third stage innate talent fusion, his strength was at its peak. Junior brother! Duan Nan and the others were all shouting, their eyes as red as blood. Obviously, they didn't expect that Lin Ling would dare to kill their people in front of them. He dared to kill people from the Chaos Realm. To the gods of the Chaos Realm, the void of the 9 prefectures was like the mortal world. Whether it was strength or age, it could never be compared to them. Let them go. Don't worry, I'll let them go. Duan Nan also remembered what Lin Ling said before. I'll let them go. But he killed them. Damn it. However, Lin Ling acted as though he didn't see Duan Nan and the others' anger. Instead, he came before Emperor God Zhang Gang and took out a jade bottle. He said to Emperor God Zhang Gang, "Open your mouth." Hearing this, although Emperor God Zhang Gang was suspicious, he still opened his mouth. After that, Lin Ling dripped a drop of emerald liquid into his mouth. This liquid slid down his throat and quickly healed his injuries. This jade bottle was obtained by Lin Ling from one of the gods after he killed his way from West Memorial Hall to North Memorial Hall. As a matter of fact, he had killed people for their treasures, and now he had countless treasures on him. You guys open your mouths too. Lin Ling walked towards the others and gave each of them a drop. Amazing! What kind of treasure is this? Sensing that their injuries were recovering, everyone was shocked. After reaching the level of a god, it was very difficult to heal injuries with the god's spring alone. Unless one's own recovery ability was very strong, like Lin Ling's, otherwise, one could only rely on the accumulation of time. On this point, the bright golden dragon was an example, and so was Eugene. However, a drop of liquid was enough to heal 80% of their injuries. This was really shocking. Jade Cicada True Liquid. Looking at the treasure Lin Ling took out, Duan Nan and the others in the sky were also shocked, and their eyes were filled with envy. This kind of treasure was very rare. Even in the divine realm and chaotic realm, there were not many of them. Not only did it have the effect of healing, but it could also assist in cultivation. Of course, more gods only kept this treasure to heal their injuries. After all, the Jade Cicada True Liquid was not the only treasure that could replace cultivation. Damn it, such precious treasures are used by these trash. Moreover, where did this Lin Ling get these treasures? Duan Nan gritted his teeth and said, he probably got them in the graveyard of the gods. After all, there are many gods buried here, and some of the treasures were not taken away. So Lin Ling got them by luck. Another person guessed, what an enviable guy. He's just a piece of trash from the void of the 9 states. But he has more treasures than us gods from the chaotic realm. Duan Nan nodded, but he was even more jealous. You guys are really stupid. At this moment, Lin Ling put away the jade bottle. He then slowly looked at Duan Nan and the others and said coldly, "Stupid." Duan Nan immediately sneered and looked very suspicious. When I was healing them, you guys could have run away. If you were faster than me, you might have been able to escape. Of course, this hope is very slim, but it's still hope. However, you guys just stood there in a daze. If you're not stupid, then what are you? Lin Ling said. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Duan Nan and the others laughed. Although Lin Ling killed their junior brother was the weakest among them. Moreover, Lin Ling only relied on a sneak attack. Taking a step back, they still had 3 gods here. Whether they joined forces or fought one-on-one, Lin Ling was no match for them. Let me tell you, if we want to run away, you can't kill us. Of course, we won't run away, because the one who wants to run away is you. After laughing, Duan Nan said contemptuously. Can't kill you? Unless you have 2 million worlds and can reverse time and space. Otherwise, I really can't kill you. Lin Ling said. Ha ha ha. Duan Nan and the others, who had just stopped laughing, reappeared. This Lin Ling, who was only a middle-stage lower deity, was really arrogant. 2 million world speed? It was already amazing for a late-stage lower deity to have 1 million world speed, let alone 2 million world speed. Even if we have 1 million world speed, you still can't kill us. Lei Gong Lin Ling, I didn't expect you to be such an arrogant person. You really surprised us. Duan Nan shook his head continuously, mocking Lin Ling for his lack of knowledge. Hearing this, Lin Ling did not say anything. 1 million world speed? Not long ago, the evil young man had 1,500,000 world speed, but he was still hunted down by him through 9 streets, and was killed in the end. If he had 1 million world speed, it could only be said that he would die even faster. Lin Ling, run away. We won't be able to run away, not in this lifetime. Instead, you're the foolish one. If you don't run away, you'll be taken away by us next. After one of them laughed, he looked coldly at Lin Ling, and was about to attack. Lin Ling allowed them to laugh. After they finished, he said slowly, You talk the most nonsense. If that's the case, I'll start with you. I'll start with you. His words made the eyes of the person who spoke narrow, and he almost laughed again. Did this Lei Gong Lin Ling think they were cabbages? That he could kill whoever he wanted? Just as he was about to speak, Lin Ling had already arrived and slashed with his sword. Swoosh! His head flew off and blood gushed out. With one slash, another deity was killed. Chapter 4470. Moreover, not only was Lin Ling fast, but he was also very strong. If the first person was killed by Lin Ling's sneak attack, then the person in front of them was not like that. He died right in front of their eyes. Subconsciously, they all turned to look at Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling had already disappeared at some point. What? Everyone was shocked and panicked. A sense of unknown death lingered in their hearts. The unknown was always the most terrifying. They immediately unleashed their full strength and waited solemnly. Boom! At this moment a roar sounded. One of them trembled as a punch landed on his chest. It was Lin Ling. This punch was extremely ferocious. Not only did it carry the strength of the flesh, but it also carried the power of the gods. Now that Lin Ling had 2 mid-god divine embryos, after fusing their talents, he was even more domineering. Whoosh! That god was stunned. He looked down and saw that his armor, inner armor, treasures, divine energy, and other items were spurting out of his back as if they had been hit by a gust of wind. Moreover, his divine embryo, the blood of the blue snake divine embryo of an 8th grade lesser god, had also been knocked out. Crack! Crackle crackle! The blue blood sprayed out in midair, and then exploded. You! He looked up at Lin Ling and wanted to say something, but he could not utter a word. Plop! He fell from the sky. One punch. Just like that, a late-stage lower god had fallen. Ever since Lin Ling's 2 divine embryos had become mid-god, their strength had been different from before. Especially the strength of the flesh. After fusing, it could reach 4 million divine energy. If he used Split the Heavens, it could reach a terrifying 8 million divine energy. Ah! Finally, someone cried out, completely scared out of his wits. Now there were only 2 people left. Whoosh! Lin Ling did not even look at him. He slashed horizontally with his sword, and the frightened man was cut in half at the waist. No amount of divine energy could protect him. To Lin Ling, without 100,000 units of divine energy, and a mid-god's innate divine embryo, any late-stage low god was not worth mentioning. Bang! Another person smashed into the ground, dead as can be. It was as if these gods from the chaos realm were nothing more than clay chickens and pottery dogs. The wind was howling, and blood was flowing silently. Emperor God Zhang Gang and the others raised their heads and opened their mouths wide. They were so shocked that they couldn't say a word. Especially Emperor God Zhang Gang. He was the most shocked because back then in the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace, Lin Ling wasn't much weaker than him. Now that he had broken through, he thought that he would be stronger than Lin Ling. He had also made a breakthrough. and with his mid-stage low god strength, he could easily kill a late-stage low god. Clearly, the current Lin Ling was slightly stronger than him. How can this Lin Ling be so strong? Burned Heart asked us to capture him, but I'm afraid we can't do it. Duan Nan was the only one left. He was also shocked because even he couldn't kill his junior brother in one move. Therefore, he knew that Lin Ling had a lot of trump cards. Maybe he was talented, maybe he had terrifying divine energy, or maybe he had cultivated some kind of divine ability. Of course, what he didn't expect was that everything he guessed was true. It was because of these trump cards that Lin Ling could kill gods as easily as killing dogs. Now, do you think you're stupid? At this time, Lin Ling turned to look at Duan Nan. Duan Nan took a step back when Lin Ling looked at him. He frowned and said, "What do you want?" "What do I want?" Lin Ling laughed and shook his head. "You came from the Chaos Realm. Although I don't know what your purpose is, you want to capture me and kill my people. Now that you're no match for me, you still have the nerve to ask me what I want. Or are all the gods in the Chaos Realm so stupid? Are you so arrogant? However, I don't need to explain anything to you. I've killed countless people, and you're just one of the souls that died under my sword." Duan Nan's face turned even uglier when he heard that. He had come with confidence, but now his life was threatened. Suddenly, Duan Nan looked hysterical and shouted, "I don't believe that you, a middle-stage lower deity, can be so strong. I came from the Chaos Realm, and have cultivated for 8,970,000 years. I've fought countless battles in my life, a total of 100,000 battles. How can I be afraid of you, a junior from the 9 prefectures void? Go to hell." He opened his hands, and the ancient Buddhist lamp in the sky floated over and shone brightly. The Buddhist lamp had a divine staircase, and it was as sacred as the great Buddha's hall. "Lin Ling, be careful." Emperor God Zhang Gang and the others had been defeated by the Buddhist lamp, so they immediately warned him. Crackle, crackle. The ancient Buddhist lamp floated toward Lin Ling, but it strangely disappeared and reappeared under Lin Ling's feet. The Buddhist flame burned through Lin Ling's feet and burned into Lin Ling's brain. The power of the flame was also incomparably tyrannical. "Lin Ling, I've decided not to capture you anymore. This time, I'll take your life." Looking at the Buddhist lamp chasing after Lin Ling, Duan Nan shouted, "Let me tell you, this lamp was given to me by my master. It's a chaos divine tool that has been consecrated in the heart ignition realm. It's not something a small character like you can resist. You don't understand the antiquity of the chaos realm." Lin Ling also noticed that the Buddhist lamp was chasing after him relentlessly. A Buddhist power poured into his soul, and it was wild and unruly, as if it wanted to subdue Lin Ling. "How ancient is it?" At this time Lin Ling finally spoke. He knew that the steps of slaughter couldn't resist the Buddhist lamp. Although the steps of wisdom could seal it, it couldn't destroy the Buddhist lamp. This meant that it was useless. Only Pengu could attack. Split open the sky. Lin Ling slowly stretched out his palm, and a wisp of ancient power spread out with a domineering aura that could split open the heavens and earth. Then he gently slashed down. The domineering aura of splitting open the heavens against the domineering aura of Buddhism. Rumble. As the palm slashed down, the power of 8 million worlds erupted with an unprecedented aura. It was the most ancient aura of the primordial era. Boom. The candle flame of the Buddhist lamp began to flicker and jump. Then, the Buddhist flame was split in half, and the entire Buddhist lamp was split in half. Whoosh! Endless Buddhist flame began to sprinkle on the ground, as if it wouldn't be extinguished for 1,000 years. Such a scene made Duan Nan's jaw drop. Why is it like this? He kept shaking his head, and he couldn't figure it out. Because my palm is even more ancient than it. Lin Ling took a step forward, and came before Duan Nan. He looked at him coldly and said, "I don't know why your so-called heart ignition realm wants to capture me, but I can tell you that no one can control my life." With that, he slashed out with his sword. The sea of blood drowned Duan Nan, and the latter cried out in pain. "Lin Ling, you can't escape from the heart ignition realm. We're not the only ones who want to capture you." Chapter 4471. Lin Ling. Seeing Lin Ling walking over, Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest were delighted. Yu Yu and the rest ran over but were stopped by Lin Ling. Yu Yu, seeing your sister, you or I'm dirty. I don't care. However, Yu Yu and the rest did not care. They pounced on Lin Ling and hugged Lin Ling. Lin Ling smiled helplessly and allowed his two wives to hug him. Lin Ling seems to have calmed down a lot. Yeah, but the murderous aura on his body is still very strong and his blood chi is scarier than before. I'm afraid he has killed quite a number of people during this period of time. Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest were talking. After a long while they saw Lin Ling walking over. They smiled and walked over. Then, they told him what had happened not long ago. For the Kirishin not to underestimate the battle. It must be very intense. How about this? You guys leave first and I'll go take a look alone. Hearing what Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest said, Lin Ling pondered and said, that won't do. Let's go together. Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest immediately shook their heads. Yu Yu and the rest can't participate in the battle over there. Seeing Yu Yu and the rest leave, I'm worried. So I have to trouble Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest to send them back. We'll gather at the valley outside the 72 caves. What do you think? Lin Ling said. In actual fact, he had sent Emperor God Zhang Gang and the rest away because he had heard from Mysterious Lady that Lin Ling was about to face a great calamity. This calamity was unavoidable. So if Lin Ling stayed with Yu Yu and the rest, he would only implicate them. Of course, Lin Ling naturally did not dare to say it out loud, because if he said it out loud, Yu Yu and the rest would not leave. Moreover, if Grandpa Treasure God isn't still inside, how about this? As long as we find Grandpa Treasure God, the two of us will immediately rush back. Lin Ling said again. Hearing what Lin Ling said, Emperor God Zhang Gang and the others nodded their heads in the end. Lin Ling also gave them a large amount of treasures, saving them the trouble of searching for treasures everywhere. After that, Lin Ling took his leave. Brother Ling, you have to be careful. We'll be waiting for you in the valley. Yu Yu and Yuer shouted as they watched Lin Ling leave. Don't worry, I will be fine. Lin Ling disappeared into the distance. At the same time, he was wondering what this burning heart was. The last time he saw the sacred generation primogenitor, he was from White Mountain. What was the connection between Burning Heart and White Mountain? Rumble. Along the way, violent rumbling sounds could be heard. Lin Ling could not help but slow down and sneak forward. Then on top of a hill, Lin Ling stood there quietly. Wherever he looked, it was as if the sky was collapsing and the earth was cracking. The sky was constantly collapsing, and the void was like glass falling down continuously. It was a beautiful scene. Moreover, rays of light soared into the sky. Sensing them carefully, those rays of light were mixed with the power of gods. There were close to 100,000 rays of light. So many experts. This is a true battle between gods. Lin Ling was secretly shocked. He quietly extended his soul power and immediately discovered that there were not many people in this shocking battle. He estimated that there were about 20 to 30 people, but all of them had monstrous strength. Lin Ling recognized many of them. Kirishin, Titanic Crescent God, Ox Demon Patriarch, Nanwufinyu Treasure God, Black Dragon, Elder Foshin. There was also Lord Ning of the Spirit Nation. Beside him were two unfamiliar faces, and their strength was also very ferocious. As for the others, it was Lin Ling's first time seeing them, but soon he saw an acquaintance. It was the Dragon God of the Dragon Valley. The person fighting against him was very powerful. From their conversation, Lin Ling knew that this expert was the monarch of the Immortal Spirit Nation, Immortal Unhegeman. That is. Suddenly, Lin Ling's pupils trembled as he saw a mysterious person with a strange body and a smile on his face. Lin Ling had already seen this person before. That was because he was the great god of the Spirit Nation. He never thought that even the great god of the Spirit Nation would come. Lin Ling had also seen the person fighting against him. It was a dirty old man, and he was Daoist Myriad Treasures. Daoist Myriad Treasures had entrusted Lin Ling to find the iron box. But who would have thought that he would also come? That old fox. Lin Ling suddenly had a feeling that Daoist Myriad Treasures already knew the secret of the iron box. But this secret was obviously not what he wanted. That was because the world will host recorded in the iron box was Longyang, the great god of the spirit nation, Taoist myriad treasures, and the others are all here. This means that the experts here must be dealt with by them personally. Lin Ling did not act rashly. Instead, he quietly observed. Then, he discovered that other than the great god of the spirit nation and Taoist myriad treasures, there were two other experts fighting. Their strength was also incomparably terrifying. Those should be the experts from the chaos realm. Lin Ling stared at the two experts. Only then did he realize that with his strength, it would be difficult for him to interfere in this battle. But since he was already here, Lin Ling did not plan to return empty-handed. The host body of the world's will. They should have come here because of this. But what is strange is why so many people are so curious about the world's will. Logically speaking, the birth of the world's will shouldn't have anything to do with them. Unless they have a way to obtain the host body of the world's will. I guess that's the case. The world will host is a product of the destruction of the world. In the future, it will definitely become the strongest existence of the era. If one obtains the world will host, it will also mean that they will become the strongest existence of the era. Lin Ling kept guessing as he stared at the battle in front of him. The battle became more and more intense. Finally, at a certain moment, an old man unleashed a powerful technique, causing the earth to shake and countless bones to roll out. Among them, a stone tablet slowly emerged. The stone tablet was 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide. It was shrouded in fog, but one could still vaguely see it. There were blurry words. This stone tablet clearly recorded the world will host. At this moment, all the battles came to an end. All the experts stared at the stone tablet with burning eyes. It's mine. The great god of the spirit kingdom was the first to rush over. His speed was incomparably terrifying. As for the world will host, it was obvious that no one knew what it was. Because of this, everyone wanted to know this secret. According to legend, there were a few world will hosts with extraordinary potential. If one could devour and refine them, they would become the world will host, and their strength would greatly increase. Although after devouring them, one would have to shoulder the world will's destruction mission, every man for himself. As long as one could become powerful enough to create a world, who would care about the destruction of the world? Who would care about the death of others? Great God of the spirit kingdom, you are already the world will host. If you devour this world will host, I'm afraid you will surpass yellow and become a red world will host. At this moment, someone blocked the great God of the spirit kingdom. It was Taoist master of many treasures. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.